Chapter 39-25. Take me with you, take me with you. Dong Lan was very excited. I can definitely protect you well, don't worry. Fa Tian was really annoyed by her playful attitude. This was not a game, this was a matter of life and death. No, or I won't be polite to you. Fa Tian clutched the necklace in his chest tightly while looking around to observe the situation of his sacred glyphs. The Yun didn't have the heart to take care of such a carefree young lady. You're already like this, how can you be rude to me? I know it's very serious, but one more person means one more power. Fadian sneered. More people meant more power. Sometimes, power could not be measured by numbers. Even if they had East Blue, it would still be useless. Unless Dong Lan's elders thought that this world was very safe. Dong Lan was just a little girl now. Fa Tian turned and left. One of his legs was missing, and it looked very distressing. Dong Lan still followed behind him. Fa Tian sneered. He had already warned her that she was in danger, but she still wanted to follow. If anything happened, he couldn't blame her. Dong Lan secretly looked at Fa Tian. Seeing that Fa Tian didn't stop her from following, she immediately smiled and followed Fa Tian to a hidden cave. Dong Lan looked at the cave and asked Fa Tian excitedly, "Is this your secret base?" Fa Tian ignored her and entered the cave. He took out a bottle and began to mix mud. He only collected a little, but the situation was too dangerous. Dong Lan saw that Fa Tian's face was extremely pale and one of his legs was missing. She suggested, "An, you should rest for a while. You're very tired now and there might be a problem." Fa Tian frowned. Dong Lan thought that Fa Tian would ignore her. After all, she was a bit used to Fa Tian's cold attitude. Fa Tian always said that she was childish, shallow, and laughable. That was because she thought that Fa Tian was always acting like an old man. He was so young, so why did he make himself so old? Boring. Fa Tian nodded. Then I'll rest for a while. You should go back. It's very dangerous to follow me. However, Dong Lan suppressed her excitement and said calmly, "I'm not a fool. If there's danger, I'll know to run." Tian said, "Don't touch my things." He leaned against the stone wall and began to rest. Dong Lan had nothing to do, so she wandered around the cave. The cave was very deep, and there were all kinds of intersecting paths at the bottom. The sea extended in all directions. Even if one got lost, they could still find their way through the currents. But in the dry land, Dong Lan beautifully got lost in the crisscrossing underground tunnels. When Fa Tian woke up, he heard Dong Lan's cries for help. He calmly began to play with the mud. He was especially careful because there was only so much of it, and there was only one chance. If he failed, he would completely fail, and there would be no more chances. Tian was so nervous that his hands began to tremble. The area where his leg was broken was very painful. His face, which had looked slightly better because of the rest, was now very ugly. He was very careful step by step. He was not as casual as he had been when kneading Little Mouse. He finally made the mud ball, and now he had to knead Ning Shu. Fa Tian was much more familiar with Ning Shu than he was with Little Mouse. When he kneaded it, it was very smooth. Soon, a mud ball of Ning Shu appeared. He carefully put it down. Next, he would draw the divine pattern. Previously, when he had made the Little Mouse, he had drawn it casually. But when he drew it for Ning Shu, he crushed the leaves of the Tree of God, squeezed out the juice, and dipped it in the juice to draw the divine pattern. The effect of the divine pattern was doubled. Naturally, he wanted to give Ning Shu a better body. He did not want her to be at a disadvantage because of her birth and constitution. Fa Tian's hands were trembling. He grabbed his wrist to prevent his hands from trembling. Stroke by stroke, he seriously drew the divine pattern. He ignored Dong Lan's miserable and sharp cries for help. When the divine pattern was finished, he took out some powder and smeared it on the mud ball. As long as there was a slight change in her vitality, she would have a chance to wake up. Under Heaven's expectant gaze, the clay statue began to crack. Cracks began to appear on its surface, and in the end, it crumbled into dust. How can this be? Fa Tian's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He was angry and confused. Why did it fail? How could it fail? Everything was clearly done according to the steps. He had already revived Little Mouse before. Why was it that when everyone else succeeded, she was the only one who failed? Dong Lan crawled out of the tunnel with a dirty face. When she saw Fation's horrified expression, her heart trembled. She hurriedly said, "Don't be anxious." She looked at the powder. If one time doesn't work, then try again. You have to be calm. Fortunately, she was by Fation's side. Otherwise, with Fation's current state of mind, who knew what would happen? She was still somewhat useful. Fation was very uncomfortable. He had never been so frustrated before. This feeling of frustration made his heart feel gloomy. Previously, he was controlled by the Grand Elder and was forced to self-harm. This caused his strength to drop sharply. Now, Ningshu couldn't be revived. This was the first time since Fation was born that his confidence had been damaged. He felt helpless and sullen. Fation collected the powder again and planned to make it again. This time, he would be more careful. He should succeed. He was so nervous that his mind went blank. He almost couldn't remember how to make it. Dong Lan took out some candy and gave it to Fation. Eat something. Eating something sweet would make one feel better. Dong Lan looked at the powder on the table. She's already dead. Why did she revive? Is she still herself? Actually, she's just a memory carrier. She can't be considered a living creature. Dong Lan felt that this was a puppet. Fation didn't speak. He curled up one leg and the other leg was empty. Fation closed his eyes to rest. When he saw Dong Lan about to grab the powder, he quickly stopped her. "Don't touch it." Dong Lan quickly retracted her hand. "I just want to keep it for you." "Don't touch it," Fation said tiredly. Dong Lan, okay, I won't touch it. I'll help you look after it. We're good friends now. We've been through so much." Fation, little girl. After Fation woke up, he continued to make the clay statue. However, at the last moment, the statue broke. He tried again and again. There was nothing wrong with the steps. There was nothing wrong. Why couldn't it succeed? Fation grabbed his hair. His eyes were scarlet and his expression was irritable. What went wrong? Why didn't it succeed? Dong Lan looked at Fation and didn't know how to comfort him. She said, "This is probably God's will. There's no way to succeed." Fation asked unwillingly, "Why can other creatures do it?" To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3926. Fation tried again and again, but the results were the same. The worst thing was that the mud was getting less and less, and the clay figurine was getting smaller and smaller. Sometimes, Fation couldn't even carve the facial features in detail. The face was blurry, lifeless, and not lifelike. Even if she was revived, it would be very ugly. Most importantly, there might be no way to revive her successfully. The more he tried, the lower the chances of revival. In the end, the powder and mud might not be able to be molded into a human shape. Fation was in despair. If he tried, the mud would get smaller and smaller, and the chances of success would be even lower. But if he didn't do it, it would be even more impossible for her to revive. The clay figurine crumbled again. Fation was so angry that he wanted to flip the table. But everything was on the table. If he threw everything away, there would be no hope at all. Fation was about to cry. Why didn't it work? Why didn't it work? What was the problem? He was so angry that he punched the wall. All his anger came from his incompetence. Because of his incompetence, he couldn't get what he wanted, so he was especially angry. What the fuck was wrong? Was there anyone who could tell him? Dong Lan saw Fation's angry roar. His facial features were distorted, and it was terrifying. Dong Lan started to cry. When the tears fell, she even used her hands to catch them. Fation looked at her in annoyance. "I'm not targeting you. Why are you crying?" Dong Lan handed the teardrop in her hand to Fation. "Why don't you add something? My tears are very good. No one knows this secret. Don't tell anyone." Fation looked at the teardrop in her hand. It was round, like a dewdrop on a lotus leaf. It rolled around and looked very cute. Fation was speechless. Whose tears were in the shape of water droplets. They didn't fall apart. It was the legendary bead teardrop. Donglan thought that Fation didn't believe her and said, "It's true. I'm not lying to you. Our clan has a talent. I don't usually tell people." Fation frowned as he took the bead. What's the use of it? He didn't really dare to use it. He had added in all sorts of things. What if something went wrong? What if he broke it? His production steps were obtained through repeated experiments. If he added things of unknown origin and use, it was very likely that all his efforts would be in vain. Now, every time he tried, the chances of success decreased. They couldn't afford to be tested. Donglan didn't want to explain the use of her tears. She raised her hand and swore, "It really works. Trust me. When have you ever seen me cry? My tears are very precious." Mermaid tears? Fation raised his eyebrows and asked. Donglan was stunned for a moment. What kind of person is a mermaid? But that mermaid definitely can't compare to me, really. If the thing you added to me still fails, I advise you to give up. The failure is not because of the materials, but because she cannot be revived in the first place. Donglan promised, "I won't joke about such an important matter." Fation's expression was still very doubtful, but he still joined in and started experimenting again. What if her things were really useful? He had already failed so many times. He didn't lack any steps or materials. Perhaps he would succeed with just a few more things. After adding in Donglan's tears, he started to work. At the end, he finished drawing the divine pattern. Han almost held his breath as he looked at the clay sculpture. The clay sculpture didn't break apart like before. Fation's face revealed a smile. "Looks like it really works." Donglan heaved a sigh of relief. It was good that it worked. She was afraid that Fation would continue experimenting like this. There would be no end to it. He would go crazy. "I've already given you my most precious thing. Can we be considered friends now?" Donglan asked with a smile. Just as Fation was about to say something, he saw the clay statue crumble. It turned into small pieces of clay. This was still mud. Before, it had already turned into sand. It could be seen that Donglan's tears had quite the solidifying power. But even so, it still couldn't stop the clay sculpture from collapsing. The smile and pride on Donglan's face froze. She became as confused as Fation. This shouldn't be. It shouldn't be like this. Donglan didn't know whether to comfort herself or Fation. How could the precious thing she was so proud of become like this? Fation's face was numb. What exactly did she want? What exactly did she want? Where did she go wrong? What was she missing? Fation gritted his teeth. The muscles on his face trembled. He collected the ashes and put them in a bottle. Donglan watched as Fation calmly put away the things. It seemed like he had stopped, but the atmosphere was very tense. It was the calm before the storm. Donglan carefully asked, "You're not doing it anymore?" Fation smiled. However, the muscles on his face spasmed. His smile was very sinister. "I'm afraid I'll go crazy if I continue." He was going crazy with anger. He had never been so angry before. Since he couldn't do it now, he would wait a little longer and find some better materials. Perhaps he could succeed. "Donglan, that's good. You need to rest." Donglan looked at his leg. "Can your leg grow back?" "No." Donglan exclaimed, "How ugly would it be if you lost a leg?" Children's words were the most naive, but at the same time, they were the most hurtful. Fation wasn't touched at all. He could still speak, he could still be angry, and he could still be called ugly by others. But some people couldn't jump or walk. They didn't even have the right to be called ugly. Perhaps if he had enough strength, his leg would be able to grow back. But now, he didn't have the heart to grow back this leg. This was a disgrace. He had to keep it to remind himself at all times. If he couldn't find a way to revive her, this leg would be crippled and broken. "I want to rest now. You can go." After experiencing intense emotional turmoil and escaping, Fation was very tired and needed to rest. Until now, he still felt like he was dreaming. She was clearly such a lively person, but she was gone just like that. It was so sudden. He thought that she could survive. Now, he was all alone. Donglan said angrily, Why are you like this? If you want to rest, I can help you look around the dangerous situation. When you see that I'm useless, you chase me away. Fation chuckled. What kind of hobby do you have to watch people sleep and rest? He wasn't in the mood to play with her now. To her, it was a novel experience, but to others, it was a matter of life and death. He couldn't empathize with her. Besides, there was no such thing as empathy in this world. Even for Ning Shu, he couldn't empathize with her. All he had was confusion and disappointment. Chapter 39:27. He didn't understand her concerns and actions. He didn't understand why she kept dragging her feet. She had the heart but didn't do anything. Everyone knew that it wasn't good to stay in this organization, but it wasn't easy to leave. She used her life to prove that there was no way to leave this organization. Now that she left, she didn't even have her life. Therefore, in this world, there was no empathy. There was only self-righteousness. He was too self-righteous. Tian glanced at her and rested on the stone table. Dong Lan carefully ran out of Shandong without making a sound. She was going to find some fruits for Fation. Fation looked up from his arm and glanced at Dong Lan's back. He put everything in the spatial ring and left. He wouldn't bring her along if there was nothing. If something happened, Dong Lan's elders would definitely find trouble with him in Donglan Sea. Now he had to stay alive to find something that could revive Ning Shu. It was probably because his body was too weak. In the past, he revived void creatures, so his foundation was there. However, Ning Shu was a transparent, weak soul. To be able to leave behind such a small amount of ashes was probably because of his peerless martial arts. He probably needed some heaven-defying treasure to change his fate. Now he couldn't go back to the Holy Land. If that organization wanted to capture him, he wouldn't be able to resist. Fation couldn't deny this reality. He could only hide the grievances in his heart for now. At this time, Fation felt a little empathetic. Because he was helpless, because he couldn't resist, he had no choice but to do something against his will. It was really fucking annoying. If he had the strength, he would directly kill that organization and turn them upside down. Dong Lan came back and saw that the cave was empty. She was so angry that she threw the fruits. The fruits rolled all over the ground. What was wrong with her? She was always like this. Shameless bastard. He took the things and left without even saying a word to her. Dong Lan picked up the fruits on the ground and wiped them on her body. She took a bite and disappeared into the cave. Fation walked aimlessly in the void. He only had the appearance of a 4 or 5-year-old. He had to carefully avoid other void creatures. His body was his weapon. Although it couldn't eat him, it would inevitably become someone else's weapon. It only had one and didn't want to become someone else's weapon. In a way, he owed Ning Shu his life. If he accidentally became someone else's weapon, he wouldn't be able to go out and find things. Fation understood that with the things in his hands, there was no way to revive Ning Shu. He had traveled through many places and reached cliffs that were infinitely high. If he could not reach the top, he would not be able to climb any further. He dived into the deep sea to find things that he had only heard of but had never seen before. He had been to too many places and walked through many places. His clothes were old and torn by something. She's assessed when she tethus when she's tt when she was twen sheet teat. If she couldn't test, it would have popped out when she stopped looking. Fation kept the giants in his mustard seed space. It was something he'd always wanted. Maybe he'd be happy to see it when he woke up. Although he might not need it, he could be happy. The things that one hoped for and wanted to have were actually things that one could have. Fation carefully kept the small amount of powder. He didn't dare to mix it with other powders. Fadian thought about it again. If he mixed it with the ashes of other living beings when they were annihilated with hers, he might succeed. It was because hers was too weak that it couldn't take shape. Fation ate a lot of things in order to replenish his lost strength. However, energy bodies weren't easy to find. Fation hadn't found one yet. If he did, it would be easy to make up for it. During his days of wandering, Fation didn't regrow his broken leg. Firstly, he didn't want to. Secondly, he didn't have enough strength to do so. Fation sewed and patched up his clothes. His clothes were so tattered that they couldn't even cover his body. When Ning Shu was here, he never thought about living alone. Although he was always running around in the void, there was still a place for him. But at the end of the day, there was still a place to go. There was someone waiting for him. It was completely different from the feeling of being alone. Fation patched up his clothes until they couldn't be sewn anymore. Then he changed to another one. Ning Shu had prepared clothes for him in his mustard seed space. Even if they were old clothes, he wanted to keep them. It would be a pity to throw them away. He never thought he'd have to worry about clothes one day. Poverty stunted ambition. As for food, there was no need to think about dessert. There was dried meat in his mustard seed space. He used to think it was dry and ordinary. Now, he only wanted to taste it. He would put one or two in his mouth and taste it. It was fine as long as he could eat it. In fact, he didn't need much food. However, his body lacked energy. It would be great if he could eat energy bodies. However, he didn't have such things. Fation avoided the vicinity of the Sea of Law. They were all busy people and might have forgotten about it. However, Fation didn't dare to gamble because the price was too high. It could be his life. It could be his freedom. If he couldn't afford to gamble, he wouldn't dare to gamble. Fation kept walking and searching. He didn't know where his destination was. He didn't know when he would end his wandering. He didn't know if he could find that thing. He only heard a few legends and he wanted to search for it. It was too uncertain. He was exhausted. When he stopped to rest, he couldn't control his tears. He sniffled and wiped his tears. He still wanted to run towards his unknown destination. Being at a loss without any gains might be a waste of effort. However, even if there was a little hope, even if it was really a waste of effort, he still had to do it. If he didn't do anything, he wouldn't be able to change anything. Fation was being chased by a group of strange life forms. He was chewing on a fruit that he picked from the life form's territory. The fruit was rare and sweet. It was filled with energy. This energy was what Fation needed. Risking being chased, Fation entered the life form's territory and picked the fruit. Amidst the shouts and roars behind him, Daegyeon chewed on the fruit and ran. He laughed happily. He had only obtained a few fruits with energy. In the past, when he had the energy bodies, he wasn't that happy. It was probably because it was too easy to obtain them. He knew that those things were obtained by Ning Shu after spending a lot of effort, but he didn't feel much about it. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3928. It was a completely different feeling when he had to obtain every stitch and piece of thread by himself. Fation ran as fast as he could, breaking away from his pursuers. As he laughed, the smile on his face disappeared. Sometimes he wanted to be happy, but his brain was like a masochist. When he was happy, he had to remember some unhappy things. So now he was a little unhappy. Fation took a bite of the fruit and continued to laugh. In the void, he turned into a shooting star and disappeared into the distance. The void was too big and too empty. It was so empty that Fation didn't know where to go. He didn't know how long he had been through. Undoubtedly, these days were hard to endure. Anyway, Fation felt that many years had passed. Hundreds of years, 1,000 years, or even more. This was because the jerky in the meson space, which was 1 stick a day, was now gone. The jerky made from so many birds was gone. He had no clothes to wear. He had become a wild man who covered his body with fur. Even so, he still couldn't roam the void every time. It seemed that he was only wandering around in size. He wanted to go further and find more ancient legends. During this time, he didn't dare to make mud dolls. He had a feeling that he wouldn't succeed in Freedom Island. The remaining ashes weren't enough to support his unscrupulous experiments. He didn't have much hope. As long as Ning Shu was alive, even if she didn't have a strong constitution, he didn't have the ambition he had before. He wanted to make a powerful body for her. Failure after failure lowered his standards. In the end, he only had one request: to be alive. But this request was probably the most difficult. Fation was like a twinkling star, disappearing in the blink of an eye. He didn't know where he went or when he would return. In a space of faith, the law of nothingness was surging. The transparent law of nothingness became more and more turbulent, as if wanting to drown this space. However, the law of nothingness didn't develop in the direction of vitality. Instead, it was about to swallow this space and merge with it. In the air, the Taishu and Sang Liang looked down at the surging law of nothingness. Both of them were expressionless, but Sang Liang's brows were knitted together. I failed. Sooner or later, this space of faith would be devoured, and the law of nothingness would have to be taken away. If this continued, who knew how many more things the law of nothingness would devour? Facing the power of the law of nothingness, the space of faith was powerless to retaliate. Let alone maintaining balance, the space of faith couldn't even resist the law of nothingness's devouring. This was a new problem. The space of faith might not be able to resist the devouring of the law of nothingness. Could it be that too much of the law of nothingness had been invested, causing the space of faith to be unable to bear the burden and retreat? This space of faith could be considered useless. Sang Liang pondered. What proportion of the law of nothingness should he invest? The Grand Elder didn't say anything. He glanced around and left. Sang Liang put away the law of nothingness. The crumbling faith space collapsed and turned into a pile of fragments. Sang Liang put away the fragments, walked to the granduncle and said, "This needs to be tested. My opinion is that we should just give up on these planes." The Grand Elder paused for a moment, slowed down and said, "You still don't understand. Without these planes, these large number of mission enforcers will have nothing to do." Sang Liang said indifferently, "If the skin doesn't exist, what can the hair attach to? Since the things they are guarding are gone, their duty is still like this." The Grand Elder shook his head. "You still don't understand. Even if new ones are born and diverted, it's still necessary for these planes to exist. These mission enforcers, this organization, are a wall that I built for the Sea of Law. There are too many people coveting the Sea of Law that is exposed to the outside world. The birth of these planes in the Sea of Law is a responsibility and a mission. The slightly qualified people selected from these planes are the people who block the invaders. I was born in the Sea of Law and obtained power from it. However, I can't always be by the side of the Sea of Law. But if I leave, my back, the source of power, will be threatened. Many of the birthplaces of planes and worlds that were exposed to the outside world had been eaten clean. The Grand Elder was powerful, but in the face of birds, monkeys, and even some flies and mosquitoes that wanted to peck at the fruit at any time and place. As a normal person, they wouldn't always guard around the fruit tree. Having an existence that could disperse these covetous people and stay by the fruit tree at all times was very useful. He coexisted with these planes. It wasn't that the situation would be better if he gave up these planes. He was destined to be connected to the Sea of Law. There was no way to cut it off. If there was a problem with the fruit tree, they had to start from the fruit tree and not kill the cats and dogs that looked at the fruit tree. As for the planes that were born by relying on the Sea of Law, it didn't matter if they were destroyed. If they weren't destroyed, they would naturally stay and not be destroyed directly. Sang Liang was even more indifferent. The fruit tree must be pruned. Too many branches will only absorb more energy. If there are withered branches, there will be new branches. It's a balance, the Grand Elder said. The general direction was correct, but some people were the victims of this general direction. And the victims of strength were not willing to sacrifice. The collision of personal will and the will of everyone, the collision of personal interests and the interests of everyone. If the Sea of Law could be successfully diverted, it would be a good thing for this plane and this organization. However, it wouldn't be a good thing for the victims. There was no perfect solution in the world that was in everyone's interest. Sang Liang sighed and stopped arguing with the Grand Elder. He changed the topic and said, "Find a new space of faith. This time, invest less of the law of nothingness. If there is a catalyst, it might be able to form a space with vitality faster. Adding a bit of the original power of the plane's birthplace could speed up the birth time. Simply put, it was like making pickles. Adding a bit of old pickle water could ensure the success of a jar of pickles and also reduce the time. It wouldn't cause a jar of pickles to fail because of some fermentation problems. The Grand Elder said, "He's already dead. Why are you saying this?" Sang Liang grinned. "Isn't it a pity? It's a pity that there's vitality in the space of faith. If there was vitality, too many problems would be solved." The Grand Elder nodded. "It's quite a pity. If he did it again, he would be gentler. He wouldn't destroy the space of faith. He just had to kill the person. If he didn't kill the dog that bit him, he wouldn't be able to celebrate the new year." To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3929. This person had been dead for a long time. If she didn't have the faith space, she would have almost forgotten about this person. It was the world that Sang Liang was always thinking about. He always looked very regretful and sighed in front of him. Sang Liang said to the granduncle, "I heard that there's a place that's about to give birth to life. It's been a long time since the last birth. I think you can go and take it back and eat it to nourish your body." This kind of life sounded like a soul, but it wasn't. It was a kind of energy born in the void, and it was a kind of plant with a lot of vitality. Eating it could provide a lot of energy for void creatures, especially for a body like the granduncle's. It was best to eat it. It was a very pure and rare thing. The granduncle said, "Oh." Sang Liang frowned. "Don't take it to heart. Go and look for it when the time comes. I don't know the specific location yet. When you know the location, go and look for it." The granduncle said, "Oh." A huge stone man was looking for food in the void. When he saw a little girl sitting on a stone, she looked at her hand in disappointment. When she saw the stone man, her face showed a vigilant look. The stone man said in a muffled voice, "How could the void give birth to such a weak child?" The stone man obviously felt that this child was a little underdeveloped. He handed her the fruit in his hand and the twisted earthworm-like food. The little girl's face showed a surprised expression. She glanced at the stone man and took the fruit. She didn't take the earthworm-like insect. This thing looked really unappetizing. The fruit was very sweet. The stone man's body was covered with moss. He was like a moving mountain. He looked very familiar. The stone man said, "How long have you been born? Why are you alone? Don't you have a race? You look a bit like a low-level intelligent human when you were born." "That's right. You're so weak. It means that the power that gave birth to you isn't strong enough to give birth to other races. Do you have any talent skills? No, then you're a bit useless. But it doesn't matter. You can treat it with food. The void doesn't have much, but there are a lot of delicious and energy-rich things. You don't have a race. Do you have any plans? A newborn like you with pure energy will be eaten by other races." She said, "I might be me or I might not be me. I don't know who I am, but the past is engraved in my mind. I don't have anything left. Actually, I still have one more thing, which is the tumor in my brain." The stone man was unable to make an expression, but his eyes were filled with sympathy. "You are still sick, your body is weak." Ning Shu, she finished eating the fruit, wiped the juice off her hands, and asked, "What time is it now?" Stone Golem was very confused. What? She couldn't ask any more because the lifespan of void creatures was too long. They didn't know how to count or record how long they had lived. In any case, they lived for a very long time. Ning Shu didn't know how she woke up. She was sure that she was already dead at that time. As for why she woke up, she didn't know. She didn't know if it was a new personality because it was as if she had slept for a long time and suddenly woke up. She didn't even know who she was. Anyway, she was no longer a member of the Dream Organization. Stone Golem said that her body was weak because it was severely damaged by the peerless martial arts. Now, the brain tumors were like grains. Ning Shu had a splitting headache. Reality and illusion overlapped in her mind, making her unable to face who she was. The more she thought about it, the harder it was to calm down. It was like her, but also not like her. She had nothing left. She couldn't feel the power of the will of death. The world tree that was once planted in her soul was gone. The brain tumor that was the size of a ping-pong ball was also gone now. It was precisely because the things that she once had no longer existed that she couldn't help but feel suspicious. Ning Shu asked, "You said I'm a cub? cub, a cub of the void? Did she become a void creature? Was it because of the peerless martial arts? Ning Shu called for Fation and the god-beating whip, but there was no response. There was no response at all. They were completely cut off. There was nothing. What else did she have? Stone Golem Ning Shu stretched out a huge stone hand. Ning Shu hugged her head and looked blankly at the hand that was put down. The huge stone hand stopped above Ning Shu's head. She lowered her head and looked at the huge hand. After thinking for a while, she understood and jumped into the stone golem's hand. Ning Shu felt that her brain wasn't enough. Maybe it was because she slept for too long that her brain was stiff. Or maybe she didn't have a brain. Stone Golem placed Ning Shu on his shoulder and began to walk step by step. Stone Golem walked very slowly, but his steps were very big. Ning Shu had actually seen this Stone Golem before. That was when she met him when she went to collect metal with Li Wen and the others. The stones on his body were all made of metal, and they were lumpy together. Standing very high, she could see very far. It was as if the world was under her feet. Ning Shu raised her hand and put it by her mouth to shout, Hu Hansen am back. I'm back. It's over. The empty voice traveled very far. She had a body and was no longer in a soul state. She had no worries, she was a happy madwoman. Oh, I forgot. There was still a Fation. Where should I go to find Fation? I can't find the location of the sacred ground. I can't find the cub's place. After shouting, Ning Shu let out a heart-wrenching cough. She immediately clutched her chest and felt that it was very painful. Stone Golem said in a muffled voice, "Your body isn't good. Don't be agitated." Ning Shu made a no sound. The peerless martial art was not in good condition. She, who had fused with the peerless martial art, was not in good condition either. Stone Golem asked, "Cub, what do you want to eat? Milk fruit?" Yes. She nodded frantically. She found a tree with bright red fruits. Ning Shu jumped down from Stone Golem's shoulder. With a boom, it was like a meteorite hitting the ground, creating a very large crater. Dust flew everywhere. Ning Shu choked and coughed. Cough, cough, cough. Why was her body so weak? The stone man pulled Ning Shu out of the pit and placed her on the ground. He blew at Ning Shu, and her hair was almost blown off. Her face was wrinkled, and ripples were rippling from the wind. "Okay, the dust on your body is clean. Go pick some fruits and eat," Stone Golem said. Ning Shu walked under the tree. She did not want to climb the tree. She hugged the tree and started shaking it, shaking the fruits off the tree. However, when she hugged the tree and exerted her strength, she directly uprooted the tree. With a loud bang, the big tree fell to the ground. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3930. Ning Shu was pinned under the big tree. Miraculously, she wasn't crushed to death by the big tree. Her intestines were smashed through. As a human's instinct, Ning Shu waved her limbs like a tortoise that couldn't turn over. The stone man grabbed the uncle and moved the fruit tree away. Ning Shu sat up and quickly checked her body. It wasn't easy to get this body, so she didn't want to ruin it. Cough, cough, cough. Ning Shu coughed violently. She coughed so hard that her chest hurt. She weakly touched her chest. Sigh, I'm so weak. Even the slightest fluctuation in my emotions hurts. Could it be a congenital heart disease? The stone man said to Ning Shu, "You have to learn to control your strength. Using too much strength isn't good for your body. Especially when you were born, your energy was too weak, causing you to be a bit useless." Ning Shu nodded obediently. "It's like this. I also feel that I'm a bit weak. This body is very weak." The stone man demonstrated to Ning Shu, pulling up a tree as if it was pulling out grass. He said to her, "Look, when you learn to control your strength in the future, you will be able to pull up a tree as easily as lifting heavy weights. You won't fall on your back." Ning Shu, she felt that something was wrong, but who cares? "I'm strong because I'm big, but you're so weak. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing because if you use too much strength, your body won't be able to take it." Ning Shu sighed. "It's just that I'm too weak. My body can't take it. From today onwards, I have to take good care of my body. Chrysanthemums soaked with wolfberry. With the stone man's size, who knew how big its stone hands were, it could carefully pick the fruit. It curled up into a ball and picked the fruit that was like a needle compared to its size. He handed the fruit to Ning Shu. Eat more. Ning Shu took the fruit and gnawed on it. She looked at the stone man. She ate and plucked at the same time. When Ning Shu finished eating, she would give a few more to Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked at it. Underneath this stone man's rough appearance was a gentle heart. From the first time they met, it wanted to touch the metal on its body. However, it didn't get angry. Instead, it gave him some metal. Among all the void creatures she had seen, the stone man's personality was the best, the most gentle. As for the old man Divine Tree, although he had a bad temper, he was indeed a good person. Ning Shu's mouth and cheeks were stained with the sweet and greasy juice. He held the big fruit and laughed. He laughed so hard that his eyes couldn't be seen, turning into a crescent shape. The two of them finished all the fruits on the tree. Ning Shu's belly bulged, and he stuck out his tongue to lick the juices. After such a long time, he finally felt full. The satisfaction of being full was transmitted from his stomach to his brain. Oh, this is great. However, now that she had a body, if she ate without restraint, would she become a fat loli? A fat loli that wasn't cute at all. What do I look like? Ning Shu asked the stone man, am I good looking? The stone man paused and said in a more tactful tone, you're just too weak. In fact, looks aren't important. Ning Shu was speechless. Could it be that she was very ugly now? This was a sad thing, but so what? As long as she was happy, it was fine. If looks weren't something that limited her happiness, then the problem of looks wasn't a problem. Yes, I still think the body is more important. Ning Shu nodded in agreement. I want to have a good body. Without waiting for the stone man to reply, Ning Shu said in the next second, this fruit is so delicious. Pick the fruit tree back. The stone man, okay. Ning Shu picked up a towering tree and stuffed it into a hole. Then he buried the roots with mud. He wanted to water it, but he found that the water law was gone. Not only was the water law gone, but the other laws of earth and wood were also gone. Under the attack of the Grand Elder, those laws couldn't withstand it and had probably all collapsed. Now, except for Ning Shu's body, everything from the past was gone. His peerless martial arts were also in a crippled state. Everything was gone. That was why Ning Shu felt that it was an illusion. Why were those things gone? Was he going to start over again? He had a body, but he was still so weak. The stone man watched from the side. When he saw that Ning Shu had finished planting the tree, he started coughing while leaning on the tree. He coughed until his face flushed red. The stone man, your physique is too weak. Sigh. Ning Shu also sighed. Just too weak. He started coughing after doing such a small thing. The stone man plucked a flower and placed it on Ning Shu's head. That flower was very small for the stone man, but it was almost as big as Ning Shu's head. There was a huge flower on top of her head. Ning Shu touched the flower, and a clear fragrance surrounded the tip of her nose. Ning Shu smiled happily. The big flower on her head climbed onto the stone man's shoulder and sat on it. Her legs dangled in the air. She raised her fist. Let's go. Let's find something to eat. The stone man moved slowly, but his speed wasn't slow. As long as his body was too big, his movements looked very slow. When he took a step, others couldn't catch up with him even if they took 100 steps. The scenery in the sky was really good. Ning Shu touched her body and started to familiarize herself with it. From now on, she had a body. Although this body was very weak, it was still a body. The stone man said that she was a void cub. That meant that she had turned from a chicken into a human. She had a human body. Even if she was weak, she could accept it. Now, she had to develop her body's strength. It seemed that she had a lot of strength. As for other strength, she could slowly explore it. Ning Shu looked at her own hands. They were small and fleshy. They were snow-white. When she touched her face, it wasn't that kind of skin and bones, but slippery. Ning Shu was addicted to this kind of touch. She fell in love with herself and couldn't help herself. Following the stone man, Ning Shu ate a lot of things. There were fruits and also meat. However, the meat was bloody. Ning Shu didn't like to eat it, but the stone man didn't mind at all. Seeing that Ning Shu didn't eat these things, the stone man advised, "It's not good to be picky. Your body is weak to begin with. Do you have the right to be picky?" Ning Shu gnawed on the fruit. "Yes, why don't I have the right to be picky? Things like qualifications, if you said you had it, then you had it." The stone man slowly shook his head and began to eat the bloody meat. Ning Shu felt that if it ate like this, it would cause a huge impact on her soul. She should get some fire and roast it. Ning Shu asked, "Where's the fire? Do you eat cooked food when you eat?" The stone man, "There's fire. There's the kind that can burn the meat to ashes. I'm used to eating like this. It's too troublesome to roast it bit by bit." To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 39-31. Ning Shu felt that the fruits she ate were quite good. Fruits had energy, and meat was also energy. They had the same energy, but the taste was different. Being forced to become a vegetarian, Ning Shu felt that the stone man had a great influence on her diet. There was a shallow stream next to the temporary stop. Ning Shu finished eating the fruits and washed her hands. More importantly, she wanted to see how she looked like. Ning Shu carefully moved closer. First, she opened one eye and it seemed okay. Then, she opened the other eye and felt that she was really cute. She looked like a loli with long braids on her head, one on each side, and a small skirt. Looking at herself, Ning Shu felt that her mentality had become younger, and all the weight on her body had disappeared. The tiredness and depression disappeared with her rebirth. This kind of wandering life, without knowing the passage of time, was carefree. She also met the simple and honest stone man, who didn't eat her like the other races. When she woke up, she encountered happy things. Since her rebirth, she had a happy life. No matter what she encountered in the future, she had to be beautiful and happy. This kind of healing made Ning Shu very happy. The environment here wasn't as high pressure and busy as the organization. Under that kind of atmosphere, people were under a lot of pressure. Everyone had to work hard to move forward. Only with a life could one have the right to talk about other things. Ning Shu madly made pictures of herself on the water surface, taking pictures of herself from all angles. The stone man waited for a while, but she didn't seem to have any intention of stopping. He picked up Ning Shu with his giant stone hand, put her on his shoulder, and left. Ning Shu sat down on his broad shoulders and looked at the stream reluctantly. What she needed now was a clear mirror so that she could see her face clearly. After recovering from the joy of her rebirth, she calmed down a little and played comfortably. Ning Shu remembered that she seemed to be looking for Fa Tian. Now that she no longer had any mental connection with Fa Tian, all connections had been severed. Finding Fa Tian now depended on fate. How much fate did it take to meet him? After all, the void was so big, it was not easy to meet him. Ning Shu fiddled with her long ponytails that reached her waist as she asked the stone golem, "Where are we going now?" The big red flower on Ning Shu's head fell off. Ning Shu put the big red flower on his head again. The stone man asked in a muffled voice, "Where do you want to go?" Ning Shu was silent for a while before he said, "I want to go to the Holy Land." Going to the Holy Land was the most likely place to find Fa Tian. However, what Ning Shu wanted now was fate. He didn't want to force it. Perhaps Fa Tian would live a better life without him. To be honest, Tian was quite unlucky to be with him. It would be great if they met, but if they didn't, then it just meant that they weren't fated enough. If I force myself too much, I'll become an inner demon. I want to be a happy person. The Holy Land? I've never heard of it, but what kind of place is it? Tell me. Ning Shu didn't plan to say. It was useless to say it. Perhaps Fa Tian wasn't in the Holy Land. Everyone in the organization knew that Fa Tian was a cub from the cub shelter, so they might go to the cub shelter. If Fa Tian was smart enough, he might not be in the Holy Land for the time being. Even if he went there, he wouldn't be able to find him. So let's leave it to fate. If we don't go to the Holy Land, then let's go somewhere else. Now that the life spirit is about to bloom, let's go eat the nectar. It's sweet and very nutritious. Once you eat it, your body might be better, said the stone man. Ning Shu was very hungry when he heard about food. The feeling of being full was great. He nodded repeatedly. Okay, then let's go eat the nectar. After receiving Ning Shu's affirmation, the stone man turned in another direction and led Ning Shu to find the nectar. Ning Shu licked his lips and asked, "Is the nectar tasty?" Following the stone man, Ning Shu really ate a lot of fruits. It was much more varied than before. The stone man said, "It's delicious. I've eaten it a few times, but this kind of thing is too rare. The interval is very long. After eating it once, I can go without eating for a long time." Ning Shu's eyes lit up. This was probably what she needed. With such nourishment, it would definitely be able to nourish her weak body. However, the distance was really too far. Anyway, Ning Shu felt that they had walked a long way, but they also ate a lot along the way. Ning Shu felt that his stomach was full at any time. He didn't need to walk. He lay on the stone man's shoulder and sat down if it was uncomfortable. The flower on her head changed into a rainbow-colored flower. It was beautiful and smelled good. The stone man put it on her head. She was in a good mood every day. There were fresh flowers every day. It couldn't be better. Although he still coughed frequently, these small problems were not a problem at all. Of course, as a companion for so long, under the stone man's care, Ning Shu was getting fatter day by day. She also had to care about his situation. Ning Shu asked the stone man, "Have you always been alone?" The stone man said, "No, I also have Zhou Hongzhu. I just like to walk around. It's easy to get bored if I'm in one place. We are the divine stone race. We are born with strong defensive abilities." Ning Shu said, "Oh." It turned out that the stone man full of maternal instincts also had a race. He thought it was just one race. Of course, when talking about his own race, he couldn't help but talk about Ning Shu. The power that gave birth to you is really too weak. Not only do you not have a race, but your body is also so weak. Ning Shu, sigh. It was a pity that the peerless martial arts were so weak now, but it still gave her a body. At this time, Ning Shu wouldn't despise this body for being weak. Otherwise, she would still be in a deep sleep, completely unconscious and unable to feel anything. As for her body, according to her current state of eating, she would definitely be able to recover. Ning Shu asked, "How much longer?" "It's been so long. Do you still remember where the nectar is?" "I remember the approximate location. I specially marked it. I just don't know if the living soul ran away this time. If it did, the approximate location wouldn't be accurate. It could run? Could it be a ginseng?" Ning Shu was looking forward to the nectar. When he reached the destination, he found that there were already many races waiting. There were all kinds of races. Some races appeared directly in their race form, and some races turned into human form. When the stone man appeared with his huge body, it attracted a lot of attention. When they saw the little girl on the stone man's shoulder, they all looked away. In their eyes, this cub was very weak. There were no energy fluctuations on her body. She could be blown to death by a breath. She was just that weak. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 39-32. The soul of life was a very large plant with long leaves, like a narcissus that had been magnified many times. There were large buds on the flower path. The flowers had not bloomed yet, but the air was already filled with the fragrance of flowers and a sweet smell. It was very tempting. Ning Shu smelled this smell and felt that this nectar must be very delicious and fragrant. However, there were so many people but not many buds. If it was divided equally, there would not be enough. She and the stone man would definitely not be able to get any. There was no other way. She could only take an unconventional approach. Perhaps she could get one. Such a large flower must have a lot of nectar. The flower was much bigger than a large water tank. There was an unknown amount of nectar inside. Ning Shu could not help but salivate. The current peace was because the soul of life had not bloomed yet. When the flower completely bloomed, this peaceful situation would be broken. It would depend on who was stronger. As time passed, more and more races appeared here. Ning Shu saw the person she did not want to see the most. Since her rebirth, or after waking up, she did not think about the past and did not think about the right and wrong. However, when she saw it, her heart still fluctuated. The grand uncle felt a very sharp gaze. He turned his head and saw Ning Shu sitting on the stone man. Ning Shu's current appearance was completely different from before. No matter how weak she was still a void creature. She was not the Ning Shu that could be crushed to death. She had an unchangeable physique. She was a chicken for life. Ning Shu's throat was itchy and she coughed. The stone man raised his other hand and blocked Ning Shu on his shoulder. He looked at the grand uncle and asked, "What are you looking at? You're making the cub cough." Ning Shu, cough, 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 cough. The grand uncle withdrew his gaze. Even the divine stone race felt pain when they hit him. Ning Shu lowered her eyes to hide the coldness in her eyes. When she raised her head again, she was still a fragile cub that could be blown to death by a breath. Sooner or later, he would have to kill him. Didn't they say that sacrificing one person could save the general public? Sacrificing a small part to fulfill the majority's wish and kill the grand uncle. Without the grand uncle absorbing the power of the Sea of Law, the Sea of Law could last longer, the plane could last longer, and the organization could last longer. If she truly had the Sea of Law, and if she wanted grand uncle to die, she could consider diverting the flow. Wasn't it good to sacrifice the grand uncle to help everyone? If she went back in the future and told that organization and everyone that they could continue to live after the death of the grand uncle, the Sea of Law could still exist, the plane could still exist, and the mission enforcers who relied on the plane could also live. Who knew how many people wanted to make a move on the Grand Elder? Thinking about it, he really wanted to see that scene. Brother, the bigger picture is more important. Ning Shu was smiling on the surface, but in her heart, she thought that this person was very annoying. She hadn't been happy for long, and now she was reminded of some unhappy things. Thinking back, there weren't many happy moments in that organization. Just when he wanted to be happy about his achievement, he was slapped back by reality. He didn't want to think about it. It was meaningless to think too much. He couldn't be like before. The past was the past. The important thing was how to taste the honey now. As soon as the grand uncle appeared, many people were afraid. Previously, they were scattered, but now, there was a faint intention of joining forces to fight against him. The stone man whispered to Ning Shu, "Do you know him?" Ning Shu shook her head blankly. "I don't know him. Who is he?" The stone man said, "He's lucky. Void creatures are born from void power. He was born in the birthplace of the plane, so he's very powerful." Ning Shu nodded and asked, "Don't the birthplaces of other planes give birth to creatures like him?" "They do, but the probability is small. The birthplaces of planes also have the instinct to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. The birth of creatures means that the direct creatures will absorb more power. This kind of creature can cultivate and become stronger on its own. Moreover, there's a source of power to provide power. That was to fight for a while. He had always been powerful and had endless power. Ask the people who fought with him if they felt aggrieved. Ning Shu just said indifferently, "Is that so? Endless power? Heh, I'm afraid the Sea of Law can no longer provide him with endless power." The stone man said to Ning Shu, "Don't provoke this kind of person. If there's no necessary conflict, don't provoke him if you can. Let's not talk about whether you can beat him or not." "So what if you can beat him?" Ning Shu said indifferently, "Of course, we'll fight if there's value. There will definitely be a conflict. If not, how can we eat the nectar?" Ning Shu whispered in the stone man's ear. The stone man couldn't help but ask, "Is this okay?" Ning Shu spread his hands and said, "Why not? How will we know if we don't try? If we can get the nectar, we'll benefit. If we don't succeed, we won't lose anything. Isn't that good?" The stone man hesitated and nodded. "Okay, but I don't think so. There are too many people here this time. Let's wait for the next time. I know a more secret place with life." Ning Shu said, "Since we're already here, we have to give it a try." They couldn't return empty-handed after climbing mountains and wading through rivers. Even if it was just to lick the flowers, it would be a wasted trip. The petals slowly bloomed one by one, and the sweetness and fragrance became stronger. Everyone stared at the soul flower, and the atmosphere became solemn. How to obtain the flower was a question that everyone was thinking about. The grand uncle looked at the soul with a cold expression. The others looked at him from time to time. Finally, someone stood up and said to the grand uncle, "It's boring to fight endlessly. Let's split these flowers." The grand uncle looked up at him. "How do you want to split them?" The sweetness in the air was getting thicker and thicker. Those flowers were like awakened beauties, stretching their bodies and seducing people. "Split them according to strength. I don't want much. I want two." The race that spoke had long hair all over his body, and his facial features could not be seen clearly. Ning Shu stomped on the stone man's shoulder with his foot. The stone man immediately hammered the ground with his hands, and the huge force made the ground tremble twice. The races that were still in discussion all focused their gazes on the stone golem. "You're not giving me Shan Yu face. I'm standing here. Can't you see me? I want flowers too," the stone man said loudly. The divine stone race probably gave people the impression that they were simple and honest. Someone said, "You divine stone race don't like to eat these." Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. They didn't like to eat. He ate more than anyone else. Shan Yu objected without thinking. "I like to eat them. I want one. No, I want 5. You won't object, right?" To watch the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 39-33. 5 Flowers. No one paid any attention to the stone man. This guy was just daydreaming. They had to take him away the moment the flowers bloomed. Otherwise, the fragrance and sweetness would attract more races. By then, there would be no way to divide them. The scene would be even more chaotic. If they could solve it peacefully, they wouldn't bother to fight. Stone Man, Ning Shu comforted him. "It's okay. Wait a moment. When the time is up, it'll be a bull's charge." These people discussed the distribution among themselves. They threw the huge stone man aside and isolated him outside the communication circle. As a result, the stone man looked like a pitiful lump. Originally, the stone man wasn't a competitive existence. The flower had completely bloomed. Ning Shu looked at the flower and her saliva flowed down 3,000 feet because the center of the flower was filled with sticky nectar. That fragrance was enough to make people faint. No matter what, he had to get a taste. Because they had distributed it in advance, the scene looked very peaceful. Ning Shu coughed, and the stone golem stomped his feet and rushed into the crowd at lightning speed. "You guys just don't give me mountain peak face." He used his huge body to cause trouble so that these people couldn't pick the flowers immediately. It was the kind that was purely unreasonable. Ning Shu rolled in the mud and was covered in mud. He quickly ran to the life soul and used the opportunity that the stone man had bought for him. The stone man was very resistant to beatings. His defensive ability was very speechless. If you didn't hit him, he would be very close to you, making your hands and feet tied. However, it wasn't worth it to hit him. It was a waste of energy and didn't hurt him at all. Ning Shu approached the life soul and looked at it closely. He stood under the plant and was about to raise his head. The flowers were so big that he could eat the nectar of one flower for a long time. Ning Shu climbed up the life soul and wanted to break the flower path, pick one, and run. When the grand uncle saw the mud monkey Ning Shu crawling around the plant like a spider, he wanted to go over immediately. However, he was stopped by the stone man. Stone Golem was the kind of existence that would make people angry if they didn't hit him. But if they didn't hit him, it would make people angry. He had to stop Stone Golem, which caused a little trouble for Grand Uncle. Ning Shu had no way to break the flower stalk. She even used her teeth to bite it. However, the flower stalk was thicker than 2 people. How long would it take to bite it with her teeth? With so many people, Stone Golem couldn't stop them. Ning Shu was anxious, so he grabbed the grass and pulled it out. In the end, he pulled out the entire plant. Uprooted. Ning Shu was stunned. His first reaction was that he had gone too far. He only wanted to pluck one flower, but he ended up plucking the entire flower. If he had a handy weapon in his hand, he could cut off the branches and run away with the flower in tow. It was acceptable for those people to lose a flower, but now that she had even taken away the pot, those who didn't gain anything had to chase after her. Ning Shu immediately reacted and carried the huge object on his shoulder. He looked like an ant carrying a 40-meter-long broadsword. Ning Shu shouted to the stone golem, "Hurry up and run." When the others saw Ning Shu uprooting the life soul, they were stunned for a moment. Then, they swarmed towards Ning Shu, wanting to take it back. Stone Golem ran at the front, picked up Ning Shu, put her on his shoulder, and began to run. Stone Golem's voice drifted in the wind and was somewhat inaudible. "Why did you uproot it? Didn't you just get one flower?" Ning Shu said, "I don't know. Who cares? Hurry up and run." The black mass of people chased after them. A huge hand stretched out very quickly. It was about to cover Ning Shu and Stone Golem. Ning Shu saw this huge hand, and a cold, killing intent appeared in her eyes. She put down the spirit of life on her shoulder and let Stone Golem carry it. Ning Shu clenched her fists. She had a rough idea of her strength. She jumped up and shot toward the huge hand like a cannonball. She was like a mosquito rushing toward a cannon. Ning Shu clenched her fists and collided with the huge hand. Time seemed to stop. In the next second, a powerful sound wave exploded from the point of contact. The huge hand broke inch by inch like glass and disappeared. The Grand Elder's face was cold. Soon, a huge hand condensed again, trying to catch Ning Shu. Ning Shu secretly shook her hand. It hurt a little, but other than that, there was no other effect. If she was in her previous state, she would have been crushed to death by this huge hand. Ning Shu clenched her fists and punched the huge hand like the wind. The power condensed in the huge hand was scattered by Ning Shu. She jumped back onto Stone Golem's shoulder and shouted to the black mass of people behind her, "I'm new here. I don't know how to talk or do things. If I offend you, you can come and beat me." Cough, cough, cough. Ning Shu looked at the Grand Elder in the black windbreaker and pointed at him. "I'll come and find you sooner or later. I'll teach you a lesson." Stone Golem ran quickly and disappeared. No one could have imagined that such a huge and clumsy body could run so fast. Usually, the stone golems were slow and unhurried. Everyone was a little confused. Now that the spirit of life had been uprooted, they could only smell a scent. Many people were unwilling to give up and chased in the direction it disappeared. The Grand Elder stood still and looked in that direction with a frown. That was the cub of the Divine Stone clan. It was very hostile to him. He could feel a murderous intent and hostility from it. Its attack was also very fierce. The Grand Elder narrowed his eyes and immediately put this matter to the back of his mind. He started to track it according to the marks left before. It was easier than those who followed blindly. Ning Shu sat on the stone golem's shoulder, one hand holding the other. That hand was red and swollen, red and swollen. Ning Shu's eyes were filled with tears. "It hurts. My hand is broken." Stone Golem, it was a little speechless. Ning Shu mourned his hand and began to look around for something. Stone Golem asked, "What are you looking for?" "I'm looking for a mark on you, me, and the spirit of life. If there is a mark, we will be found no matter where we run." According to Ning Shu's understanding of the Grand Elder and the organization, since the Grand Elder had come in person, it meant that he valued the spirit of life very much. He wouldn't give up so easily. The Grand Elder and the others were people who took one step forward and had absolute strength. They thought that the spirit of life was their own. It was normal to mark it in advance like a dog peeing. Stone Golem didn't speak. He felt that she knew that person, but she was indeed a cub that had just been born. Ning Shu looked for the mark inch by inch. Finally, he found a very small mark under a leaf of the spirit of life. If he didn't look carefully, he wouldn't have found it at all. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile phone address. Chapter 39-34. Ning Shu suddenly smiled. After fighting with them so many times, he understood these people. However, he was a dog. Who would care about a dog's habits? Dogs, on the other hand, saw through people's habits. Ning Shu flicked his finger, and the mark shattered. In order to avoid other marks, Ning Shu checked himself, the stone man, and the root of the living soul. The grand uncle, who was tracking in the void, paused and stopped. He couldn't sense the mark anymore. They couldn't have run so fast that he couldn't sense the mark. The most likely explanation was that the mark had been destroyed. The grand uncle raised his eyebrows. This brain didn't seem to belong to the Divine Stone clan. The Divine Stone clan was made of stone from head to toe. Even their brains were made of stone. Without the mark, it would be difficult to track the cub and the stone man. The void was so big. Who knew where they went? He didn't expect to return empty-handed this time. He could only wait for the next plant to bloom. No one would be in a good mood if they returned empty-handed. The grand uncle was obviously in a bad mood. He pursed his lips and looked very cold. His gold-rimmed glasses reflected a cold luster. Without a target, the grand uncle decisively gave up. He turned around and disappeared into the void. After the examination, Ning Shu sat down and held her hand that was swollen like a pig's trotter. Her eyes were brimming with tears as she coughed violently. The stone man didn't know what to say. Ning Shu said to the stone man, "Let's find a secret place to eat the nectar." The tip of his nose had been filled with a sweet smell. It was actually so damn sweet. The stone man Ning Shu asked, "Do you want to go to the Divine Stone clan?" To be honest, it wasn't safe to go anywhere with such a big living soul. He had eaten living souls before, but why hadn't he thought of uprooting them? Ning Shu tilted his head and looked at the stone man's side face. He asked, "Are they fierce?" Not really. Some of the clansmen were stronger and bigger. They stuffed stones into their bodies. The harder the stone and metal, the higher the defense. The hobby of the clansmen was to continuously increase their defensive power. They were already born with defensive power, but they still desperately tried to increase their defensive power. Ning Shu nodded. "All right then, let's go meet the other Divine Stone tribe members." Seeing Ning Shu's carefree attitude, Stone Man paused and said, "You still need to be mentally prepared." "Prepare what? Are they going to eat me or kill me?" Ning Shu asked. Stone Man. He was completely speechless. The stone golem brought Ning Shu to the territory of the Divine Stone race. There was no grass, no water, only stones. There were all kinds of stones. Like Tarzan, the stone golems pounded their chests with their fists, and the sleeping mountains began to move, turning into stone golems one after another. "Shan Yu, why did you come back?" "Shan Yu, are there any good stones and metals outside? I told you not to go out. Look at you, you've lost weight." "Shan Yu, where did you catch such a weak child? She's so weak, but you can still eat her. Let her go, let her go." "You actually plucked a soul flower. It smells so good." "Baba," Shan Yu was dizzy from these questions. He explained, "This is a child I picked up. When she was born, there was only one of her. She didn't have enough energy and her body was weak." Ning Shu looked at these huge stone golems. It was too dangerous to live with them. He might be trampled to death while sleeping. He was too small and wouldn't be easily discovered. As a reward, Ning Shu received several soul flowers. The sweet nectar made Ning Shu stick out his tongue and lick it. He scooped up the honey with his fingers and stuffed it into his mouth. A mouthful of sweetness was simply too satisfying. Sweets made people happy. After having a body, Ning Shu indulged in his appetite. "It's not like I can't afford it. Why should I eat less? Why should I lose weight?" In particular, Tai Shu didn't even touch or taste the nectar. This made him even happier. The nectar became even sweeter. Well, it was so sweet that it was a little bit scary. The other stone golems also tasted it, but they didn't eat much. The rest was given to Ning Shu. Probably because Ning Shu was too weak, they gave all the nourishing things to her. The living flowers had been plundered clean, leaving only the plants, which had been tossed about listlessly. Collecting the remaining picture nectar, Ning Shu looked at the soul flower and felt that it was a waste to let it wither like this. Ning Shu said to the stone golem, "Let's plant this grass." The stone golem found that she had a hobby, which was to plant things. Previously, a tree fell and was replanted. This grass also had to be replanted. Ning Shu said, "This is a sustainable development route." Some habits engraved in the bones couldn't be changed. Ning Shu licked the nectar on her fingers and looked at the stone golem eagerly. The stone golem said, "But there's no environment for it to live around here. It's all stones here." Ning Shu carried the huge plant and looked for an environment suitable for the plant to grow with the stone golem. The stone golem looked at her and hesitated. He looked again and finally said, "Let me carry it." She carried the soul flower and couldn't see anyone. At a glance, it was as if the soul flower was moving by itself. Ning Shu waved her hand. "I'm a little full. It's digesting. I'll carry it." Fa Tian, who had a broken leg, arrived late. He arrived at the land of the soul, but it was empty. There was no soul. There was no one, but there were some very messy traces left. Obviously, many people had been here. But now it was empty. There was a faint sweet and floral smell in the air, proving that there was indeed a soul in this place. It was just that he came late and didn't grasp the timing of the soul flower. Looking at the huge pit, Tian slapped his face. These people were too cruel. He didn't ask for nectar or anything, just some leaves of the soul flower would be good. But now he didn't even have a root. His trip was in vain. Fa Tian didn't know if there was anything else that could have the hope of reviving Ning Shu. He was really tired, really tired. He really didn't know what to do. How many years had it been? He had encountered too many things. There were too many disappointments and disappointments. He was full of expectation and disappointment. The soul flower was just one of many times. But this nectar was too damn fragrant. He was so hungry. He wanted to eat it. It had been a long time since Watian had eaten desserts. He had not eaten desserts that were so sweet that it made him shiver. When he smelled the sweet nectar in the air, Watian's desire for desserts was ignited. He wanted to eat it. He wanted to eat dessert. He wanted to eat something sweet. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 39-35. Ning Shu carried the life soul and walked in the void with the stone man. Ning Shu had eaten too much nectar and felt uncomfortable in his stomach. Even now, his mouth was still sweet and greasy, making him feel uncomfortable and thirsty. Ning Shu put down the life soul and lay down in a small stream, drinking water for a long time. After drinking, his stomach swelled up even more. Sure enough, he couldn't be too greedy. Greedy for a while, greedy for a long time. Ning Shu put the life soul back on his shoulder and asked the stone man, "Why don't you guys like to eat this?" Those stone men tasted it and didn't eat it anymore. That much nectar was almost all Ning Shu's. The stone man said in a muffled voice, "It's normal not to like to eat it. Our source of power doesn't depend on food. Embedding more stones or metals into our bodies is more useful than eating these things. Other races need to obtain energy to obtain power, but we only need to add things to our bodies. However, finding good embedding things is harder than finding food." Ning Shu, who was one step behind Ning Shu, looked at the stone man who was as steady as a mountain. He was thinking whether it was personality that determined the direction of development or physique that determined personality. The divine stone race constantly added defensive power to their bodies and developed in one direction. The divine stone race didn't have great destructive power, which meant that they couldn't find trouble. After all, you only have a strong defense, but you're lacking in lethality. They were content to stay in a corner and stood aloof from worldly affairs. The other races in the void would feel a headache when they saw such a big guy. They wouldn't waste their energy to fight the stone man. After all, it was too much of a waste of energy. In summary, it was normal for the stone men of the divine stone race to have such a personality. It wasn't like the environment she lived in before, where she had to equip herself with stronger strength. Ning Shu felt that he didn't have much chance of winning against the stone man. The stone man was very strong and his defensive power was very high. It would be too boring to fight. Ning Shu was very glad that he woke up and met an honest void creature that didn't have any bad intentions and didn't eat other races. Otherwise, he would definitely be eaten. The stone golem took him to many places and ate many things. The stone golem's sturdy and stalwart figure became even more stalwart in Ning Shu's heart. She cherished the stone golem's kindness. After all, she wasn't a child of the Godstone race, but he had taken care of her, allowing her to temporarily have someone to rely on in the void. More importantly, the stone golem helped her familiarize herself with the void bit by bit. In the past, the void that was incomparably dangerous in her heart and that she couldn't step into was slowly opening up before her eyes. After his rebirth, Ning Shu was very happy, even though his body was very weak. Ning Shu carried the soul of life on his shoulder and quickly caught up with the stone golem in front of him. He said, "Shan Yu, you are such a good person." Shan Yu's eyes were a little confused. "How did you know my name? Did I tell you my name?" "Ning Shu, I think you guys just don't give me face, blah blah blah." "Did he forget?" Shan Yu suddenly said, "Oh right, you don't even have a name yet. Why haven't I thought of giving you a name after such a long time?" "Ning Shu, actually I do." Shan Yu suddenly slapped his head and said, "Since you like to eat nectar so much, you might as well call it nectar." "Ning Shu, if I like to eat meatballs, then wouldn't I call it meatball?" Ning Shu pursed his lips. "I have a name." The stone golem said, "Nectar sounds very nice. You are a female cub, many people will like you in the future." Ning Shu's lips twitched. "Hee hee." The stone golem paused and looked at Ning Shu with some sympathy. "You don't have your own race, how are you going to reproduce? If you are with other races, you will probably be bullied." Ning Shu. 3. Most of the creatures in the void lived in the form of races. The more people there were, the more powerful they were. This was especially true for a race that was so powerful and had so many clansmen. It was simply intimidating. People like Ning Shu could really be said to be pitiful. Ning Shu forced himself to save face. "I think it's good to be alone. It's good to be free." If there were really a lot of people, Ning Shu would not know how to deal with them. The stone golem looked at Ning Shu. "As long as you are happy." The stone golem pointed at a place. "Do you think it's okay to plant it here?" Ning Shu looked at the towering tree next to him. This tree was very big and covered the sky. If he planted this grass next to it, would there still be sunlight and rain? Wouldn't it be completely covered by the tree? Ning Shu shook his head. "I don't think so." The stone golem tilted his head and looked at Ning Shu. "Why not? Don't underestimate this tree. This tree is also the birthplace of a plane. There are only benefits and no disadvantages to having life next to it." Ning Shu looked at the towering tree. The birthplace of a plane. This tree was quite similar to the world tree. One flower, one world, one world. The birthplace of a plane existed in all kinds of ways, such as the sea of law, trees, and even sand. The world tree on her was no longer there. Under the strong pressure of the giant hand, everything that should have collapsed on her body had collapsed. She was basically left with nothing. Ning Shu frowned. Will the soul seed absorb the power of the birthplace of the plane next to it? The stone golem scratched his head. How can that be? The reason why the soul seed can have such pure power is because the soul seed will absorb the power from far away. The birthplace of this plane will only benefit from it. Ning Shu nodded. Could it be that this soul seed was similar to the spirit gathering array and had the ability to condense the surrounding spiritual energy? In that case, there was no need to worry about affecting the two of them. Ning Shu looked at the towering tree. It's rare to be able to grow like this without being damaged. The stone golem said, any living being with some intelligence would not destroy this kind of thing. After all, gods have their divine path and ants have their ant path. They do not interfere with each other. As for the living beings living inside, they do not interfere with each other. If the little mouse passed by with its army, it would definitely be gnawed clean. After all, that kind of living being only had food in its mind. Ning Shu began to dig a hole. Such a big soul seed had to be dug a big hole. Now that he thought about it, Ning Shu admired himself. But how did he pull it out? After planting the soul seed, Ning Shu was already panting. He was completely exhausted. This body was really too weak. What could he do to improve it? Now that he had a body, could he continue to cultivate the peerless martial arts? Go back and cultivate the peerless martial arts. Perhaps getting some faith for the peerless martial arts could make its situation better. Ning Shu was too tired to walk on his own. He jumped onto Mountain's hand. Mountain placed Ning Shu on his shoulder and prepared to return to the Divine Rock Race's territory. A gentle breeze blew past, causing the leaves to rustle. The leaves shook violently. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 39-36. Ning Shu lay weakly on Shan Yu's back. She saw the tree's leaves trembling and rustling. Ning Shu was very tired now. She retracted her gaze after a glance and fell asleep on Mountain's back. When Mountain returned to the Divine Stone Race, Ning Shu had already fallen into a coma and slept for a long time. The stone men who had been sleeping for a long time felt that something was wrong. They turned Ning Shu over and over again to study her, but they could not figure out anything. After all, they had never encountered such a weak cub before. Although a newborn cub of the Divine Stone Race was also very weak, it could still use its fist to knock over a bird and uproot a tree. As expected, there was no way to raise a weak cub. The helpless stone men could only watch Ning Shu sleep. When Ning Shu woke up, she did not have any strength in her body. The stone men picked some fruits from outside and piled them beside her. When Ning Shu woke up, many stone men came over and looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu felt that she was so tired and her body was in so much pain. It was probably because she had used too much strength to pull out the life soul. Her body was exhausted and she did not have any strength left. It was not that she did not have strength, but the price to pay for using strength was very high. Moreover, eating the nectar had increased the burden on her body. It was like a baby eating meat, unable to digest it, causing her body to feel even more uncomfortable. After waking up, Ning Shu did not have any strength in her body. Every day, she would lie on a huge rock like a pancake, flipping one side over and over again. She was like a salted fish. If she knew this would happen, she would not have used up her strength like this. The stone men gathered together and mumbled something. Ning Shu did not care what they said. Mountain came over and said to Ning Shu, "Nectar, do you still have any more nectar?" Ning Shu did not realize that the nectar was calling her. She casually pointed at a place. "It's over there. You can take it yourselves." Right now, Ning Shu had no appetite for this food at all. It was probably because she had eaten too much previously that she felt a little uncomfortable. She smacked her lips and still felt the sweetness in her mouth. Fa Tian probably liked to eat these things, but where was Fa Tian now? The void was so big that it was hard to find him. Anyway, she wouldn't eat this in the future. She would leave some for Fa Tian. The stone man took out a jar of nectar and said to Ning Shu, "I need to take one jar out." Ning Shu waved her hand nonchalantly. She couldn't stand the smell now. She was hurt. Shan Yu took a small jar of nectar and left. The other stone golems told him, "Come back quickly, don't get lost." Ning Shu was curious as to why Shan Yu had gone out. However, she was too tired to be curious. Thinking about things took a lot of effort. Ning Shu thought that he might as well go to sleep. Sleeping was useless anyway. Ning Shu thought that he might as well cultivate some peerless martial arts. Ning Shu was very familiar with the cultivation method of peerless martial arts. It was as familiar as if it had been integrated into his bones and blood. However, when he tried to circulate his qi, his body hurt so much that he couldn't even cultivate peerless martial arts. Ning Shu clenched her fists. She wouldn't let go of the Tai Shu. Maybe it was because his body was too weak now, or maybe it was because his body was overdrawn. It was not suitable for him to cultivate peerless martial arts. What else could he do? He could only sleep. Ning Shu lay on the stone and began to sleep. In his sleep, he felt a chill invade his body. It was quite comfortable and he felt that his body had some strength. Ning Shu opened his eyes and saw a man. Seeing this person, Ning Shu sat up. "It's you." The man raised his eyebrows. "You know me?" Ning Shu laughed. "I don't know you. I was just dreaming. When I opened my eyes, I didn't react." This man, to be precise, was a fish. He was a carp that had roamed the sea of law for many days. He didn't know if his current body was a flower or a black one. This time, he was alone. He didn't know what method he used to make Ning Shu's situation better. Could it be that the carp was a doctor? A void creature's doctor? If he was sick, he would look for the carp? Shan Yu took a jar of nectar as medical expenses. If that was the case, Ning Shu felt that he would have to deal with this race a lot in the future. The carp said, I have already given her some blessings and faith to make her situation better. However, her physique is weak. These faith and blessings will be consumed quickly. Treating the symptoms but not the root cause. Ning Shu said, Thank you, sir. The carp nodded and said in a formulaic tone, Don't overuse your power. Your body has traces of the world's faith power. Ning Shu, what was the world's faith power? Ning Shu had never come into contact with it. He had heard of faith power. After all, when intelligent creatures believed sincerely, faith power would be born. But what was the world's faith power? The carp looked up and down at Ning Shu and said, Why don't you join our organization? Your physique is suitable to accept the world's faith power. It can improve your physique. As soon as Ning Shu heard the word organization, his mind buzzed. He shouted sharply, No, I won't, never. No one present expected Ning Shu to have such a big reaction. Her facial features were distorted, her voice was sharp, and her whole body was full of resistance. The stone man looked at Ning Shu holding his head and said, If you don't want to go, then don't go. Why are you so agitated? Ning Shu came back to her senses and said with a pale face, I'm sorry. I was too agitated and scared you. The stone men looked at the carp in unison. The carp twitched the corner of his mouth. She's probably sick. The stone man was a little worried. Then what's wrong with her? The carp said uncertainly, It's probably a mental illness. Ning Shu felt that she might also be suffering from a mental illness. At least for now, that organization was still in existence that she could not let go of. This was undeniable. Perhaps with the passage of time, she could slowly become indifferent. Of course, she still had to take revenge. However, Ning Shu was more concerned about another thing, which was the world's faith power. If the world's faith power could improve his physique, he might have to give it a try. Ning Shu said to the stone man, Shan Yu, please get another jar of nectar for this gentleman. Shan Yu looked at Ning Shu and the carp, turned around and got another jar. Fortunately, there was a lot of nectar. Otherwise, he would not be able to bear giving it away like this. Ning Shu took the nectar from Shan Yu's hand and handed it to the carp. He said sincerely, Sir, can you tell me more about the world's faith power? I was just born not long ago, so I don't know much about it. The carp looked at the nectar, took it and said, You really don't know? In fact, you have the world's faith power, but it's very, very little. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 39-38. It was a pity for her world tree. The world tree was so lush, and many worlds were about to give birth to life. If she entered the world tree's world and helped the world, she might be able to get a lot of faith power. But there was nothing left, so it was useless to talk about this. The stone man was dizzy and asked Ning Shu to stop spinning. What's wrong? Ning Shu touched her chin and thought about life. I want to grow up, I want to change my physique, I want to become beautiful, I want to become strong, I want to do whatever she wanted. She heard that you can do whatever you want when you become strong. The stone man, and then? There's no then. Such a big tree, didn't even have a leaf that needed help? That was too illogical. Ning Shu was a little depressed and wanted to complain. Just as she was about to speak, a white light flashed in front of her eyes. She covered her eyes reflexively. Fuck my eyes. Then she entered a dark place. It was so quiet that she couldn't see her fingers. Ning Shu's voice was trembling. Fuck, my eyes are blinded. Otherwise, why couldn't she see anything? Ning Shu whispered, Shan Yu. Only Ning Shu's voice could be heard in the quiet space. Although she didn't know why it was suddenly dark, Ning Shu was very cautious and released her spiritual power to check the surroundings. Suddenly, a white light hit her. Ning Shu quickly covered her eyes. What was going on? Was it trying to blind her eyes? She opened her fingers and saw a movie screen in front of her. Unfortunately, the image was very rough and it was a silent black and white image. Ning Shu put down her hand and looked at the image. As she looked, Ning Shu laughed out loud. Although it was a little unnatural, she couldn't help it. She was also very happy because she was finally going to open her business. A world had found her. The world in the image was barren. It was obvious that the people in this world were not living very well. Their clothes were dusty, and their faces were dark. But in this barren world, there were a few girls who were like fresh flowers, making this black and white image look good. One mushroom was the life of a koi. Although it wasn't a real koi like the koi was used to describe one's luck. In an era when resources were scarce, one could catch big fish by walking along the river. Rabbits, pheasants, and wild boars would bump into one's arms in the mountains. A young lady had a large space. Inside the space, there was a spirit spring and soil. Everything grew faster and tasted better than outside. There was also Mushroom Cold who was reborn. She was going to lead her family on the road to riches once again at a poor age. There was also Mushroom who had transmigrated from another world. He was a doctor. In this world where medical conditions were extremely backward, doctors were a rare resource. This kind of mushroom would be the Heavenly Tao's darling in any world, but there were so many Heavenly Tao's darling gathered in one world. Moreover, they were all concentrated in one production team. It was like the 8 immortals crossing the sea, each showing their own magical powers. If there were women, there would be men. On the men's side, the distribution was uneven. Outstanding men were all popular goods, and it was inevitable that there would be all kinds of conflicts. Each of these people had their own fate, and at this time, it was a matter of whose fate was stronger. Ning Shu rubbed his chin as he looked at the contents of the screen. He pondered in his heart. It was probably because there were too many people with fate in a world, and it was a huge burden to the world. If the Heavenly Tao's blessings for living beings were limited, then this world had severely overdrawn its blessings. It was like there were too many children at home that needed to be raised. They couldn't handle it and ate until they were poor. So her mission was, moreover, she didn't have a soul now, so how was she going to do it? The strong sense of weightlessness made Ning Shu feel as if he had been thrown off a plane. When the tips of his feet touched the ground, it was very painful. When he opened his eyes, he realized that he had arrived in this world with his back facing the sky. At a glance, he saw many people bending over to harvest wheat. The sun was so hot that it was difficult to open one's eyes. Ning Shu was also sweating profusely from the heat as he stood on the crooked muddy road. At this time, the people's enthusiasm for production was very high, but they had no choice but to be high. After all, if they were lazy, they would be criticized and drag the group down. Ning Shu pinched his own face and looked at his own hands. He realized that he had entered this world with his own body. Previously, he had fought with others, and there were scars on his hands. There were spots of purple that had not dissipated, and there were still scars on his hands. He looked at himself in the river. His face was still the same, but his face was black and yellow. It was not white and tender in the void. The clothes he was wearing were also full of patches. He carried a basket in his hand, and inside it was wild grass that had been baked by the sun. It was very suitable for the image of a child from a poor family. After all, many people nowadays had such an image. And it was still okay. In the past, he had entered other people's bodies. Now, it was his own body. He was now recognized by this world as a native, but he didn't know which family's child was arranged for him. There were several mushrooms, and he didn't know which one she was arranged to be with. Ning Shu carried the basket and walked slowly. The sun was too strong. Someone come and bring him home. Xiaoya, why are you still outside? Hurry and come home. A middle-aged woman stood in front of a door and waved at Ning Shu. Ning Shu sighed. He carried the basket and ran in the direction of the middle-aged woman. The middle-aged woman took the basket from Ning Shu's hand and used her sleeve to wipe Ning Shu's face. Her sleeve carried the smell of smoke from the stove. Clearly, this middle-aged woman was cooking. Ning Shu wanted to use the toilet. He went to the backyard. The toilets in the countryside were all built at the back. He saw a mushroom who was fiddling with some mysterious things. From the information he had obtained previously, Ning Shu matched her face with a name. The reincarnated girl, Hongxiao. She stuffed some wild fruits into the jar and added a lot of white sugar. White sugar was considered a precious thing in this era. Only when a guest came to the house would they add some sugar to plain water. Adding so much really made one's heart ache. Li Hongxiao secretly saw Ning Shu staring at her. Li Hongxiao hurriedly gestured to Ning Shu to shut up. Li Hongxiao walked to Ning Shu and covered her mouth. "Don't tell anyone. When the time comes, I'll give you something to eat." Ning Shu nodded. She looked at Li Hongxiao with a pair of bright eyes. She liked to fiddle with things and wanted to rely on her foresight to walk in front. Ning Shu nodded and said softly, "I won't say." Li Hongxiao didn't take the 4 or 5-year-old cousin seriously. After all, she was invisible and didn't have any sense of existence. After being reborn, Li Hongxiao was confused for a moment when she saw that she had a 4 or 5-year-old cousin. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3939. Did she have a cousin? Didn't second uncle only have 2 sons? Li Hongxiao thought about it and was still worried. She stuffed a fruit candy into Ning Shu's mouth. "Don't talk nonsense." Ning Shu used his tongue to push the candy around in his mouth. It was sweet, but Ning Shu didn't want to eat sweet things at all. Li Hongxiao dug a hole and buried the jar. After a while, something good would come out. Ning Shu looked at Li Hongxiao. Although he had a prophet after his rebirth, just having a prophet was far from enough. After all, he had to take action. Whatever Li Hongxiao did, she would succeed. And behind this success, she had to exhaust her luck again and again. There were too many people with great luck. After burying the jar, Li Hongxiao patted the soil off her hands and brought Ning Shu to the front yard. She repeatedly reminded Ning Shu not to say anything about her burying the jar. Ning Shu pressed a piece of candy under his tongue and couldn't say anything. He nodded. When he was washing his hands, there was a burst of noise outside the yard. It was mixed with the sound of loud voices. The Zhang family caught a wild boar. That wild boar is very fat. It's almost 200 pounds. Its fangs are as long as chopsticks. When they heard meat, everyone's face showed a covetous look. In this era, food and clothing were problems. Everyone thought that meat was a luxury. Having some oil in the stomach was the greatest pursuit. To be able to catch a wild boar that was almost 200 pounds, how much oil was that? Even if they ate some pig offal, there would be some oil in their stomach. However, everyone was very happy. Because now, everything was collective. If they caught some small fish or prawns, it would be their own. But this 200-pound big fat boar would definitely be collective. This meant that each family would be able to get 1 or 2 pounds of meat to fill their stomachs with some oil. Ning Shu stood at the entrance of the yard and looked at a large group of men dragging the dead wild boar. This wild boar was really big, and its whole body was covered with thick black hair. It had a strong fishy smell. Actually, the smell of a wild boar was unpleasant, but no one felt that the smell was unpleasant. This was meat. The Zhang family's mushroom girl, Zhang Qingqing, was 15 or 16 years old. She was white and tender, and her skin was white. Compared to the black and yellow around her, her skin was even whiter. Ning Shu followed the large group to the dam. Everyone gathered around and marveled at such a big wild boar. If it went crazy, it would definitely pierce through people's stomachs. He didn't know how much strength he had. Zhang Qingqing took her brothers and sisters into the mountains. Just like that, they encountered a wild boar running out of the forest. When the children saw the ferocious wild boar, they were stunned. Who would have thought that the wild boar would be blind? It angrily rammed into a tree, and with a bang, its brain almost burst out. The wild boar fainted just like that. Zhang Qingqing hurriedly asked her brother, who was running fast, to inform the family to come and get it back. What if the wild boar woke up again? When the Zhang family heard that there was a wild boar lying still, they immediately took a rope and tied it up. Because they were going to slaughter the pig, the entire production team seemed to be in a jubilant mood. It was not that they would have meat to eat during the holidays. Many people were eagerly waiting for the meat. The wild boar was fat and strong. When its stomach was cut open, there was a strong stench. But the most delightful thing was that the fat was actually a finger thick. After getting the fat meat, it was good to go back and refine the oil residue. There was very little vegetable oil. Now they all ate animal oil. No matter how coarse the food was, if they dripped 2 drops of lard, the food would be easier to swallow and more fragrant. After eating some oil, it would be easier to go to the toilet. In this era, there was very little processed food. They ate coarse grains. If there was no oil in their stomach, they would not even be able to poop. So they were simply too happy to be able to get meat. Ning Shu looked at the bloody pig's head on the ground. How lame was this pig to be able to crash into a tree and run out of the forest for people to eat? She then looked at Zhang Qingqing. Her luck was really enviable. She did not need to do anything and it automatically came to her. She did not know what kind of good person she was in her previous life. Ning Shu originally wanted to take a look at Zhang Qingqing's luck. Everyone's luck was different. However, what made Ning Shu stunned was that Zhang Qingqing's luck was white. With such great luck, this kind of koi life was actually white. Generally speaking, one's life was rich and noble. Their luck was usually red and purple. Zhang Qingqing's white color represented ordinary luck. It was not very unlucky, but it was also not a person who was especially favored by the heavenly Tao. Was there a mistake somewhere? Ning Shu changed her target and set her sights on Li Hongxiao. Li Hongxiao's luck was red. Red meant that Li Hongxiao was rich in her life. However, there was also a black line mixed in. It was probably because of her rebirth. More and more villagers came over to share the meat. Ning Shu searched for the other 2 mushrooms in the crowd. Feng Min was a mushroom who had transmigrated. She was younger than Zhao Hongxiao and Zhang Qingqing. Ning Shu was even more surprised when he saw her luck. This was because Feng Min's luck was mostly white with a hint of purple. Purple generally represented power and authority and was respected by people. However, it was understandable when he thought about how Feng Min was a doctor. Her life providence was something she had. Regardless of whether she had learned medical skills in her previous life or in this life, she had to learn them herself. It was impossible to learn medical skills without reading medical books that reached the ceiling. There was so much medical knowledge that needed to be memorized. As for Zhang Qingqing's koi luck, it was really fleeting. If this luck was gone one day, there would be nothing left. However, when this luck was still there, it was the most comfortable life. After all, the entire world was filled with kindness towards her. Li Ziyun was a mushroom who had a spirit spring space. She was Li Hongxiao's sister and was her grandfather's brother. Li Zuiyun's luck was mostly white with some red. It was about the same as Li Hongxiao's. Everyone was still young. As for what their future development would be, they had no idea. Life providence also changed with the events that happened. If one were to say who had the best life providence, it would definitely be Feng Min. However, if the world couldn't bear the burden, it meant that the 4 girls would become even more powerful as they grew up. Their current life providence was nothing. This was the first time Ning Shu had seen such a lively world. There were 4 mushrooms with great luck and one who was loved by everyone. He wasn't loved by everyone, but Tom Su, who was loved by all girls. However, it was just too crowded. That was why the world couldn't bear the burden. Especially when they were squeezed into such a small production team. The invisible interactions between them and the collision of luck would make the world unable to bear it. The impact of this collision was like a vortex that grew larger and larger. Ning Shu was speechless. What's the use of looking for her? The world should separate these people. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3941. Old Master's son was old and lived in a damp and leaky room. He usually did dirty and tiring work. His body could not take it, and his rheumatism was serious. He was tortured. Old Master's son could reject meat, but he definitely could not reject a doctor. The pain in his body was unbearable. Therefore, Old Master's son was more likely to accept Feng Min than Li Hongxiao. Li Hongxiao's food was not necessary for Old Master Sunday. A little food to fill his stomach every day could let him live, but the pain in his body was different. In terms of the battle between the 2 sides, Feng Min had the upper hand. The two of them snorted at the same time. Feng Min said coldly, "I like to go out at night. What can you do about it? Besides, when did I come out of his room? Li Hongxiao, don't accuse me." Li Hongxiao looked at her meaningfully. "I know very well whether you were there or not." "Yes, you and I both know very well." Feng Min brushed her hair, giving off a charming feeling. "Who said outside Old Master Sun's room? Old Master Sun, I brought you some meat. Don't you know what kind of behavior you are doing?" For a moment, both sides were silent. They both had something on each other. Li Hongxiao was angry. She did not know that there was another person in Old Master Sun's room. No wonder Old Master Sun asked her to put the food at the door. Ning Shu felt that he could not let this person go on. They were both consuming the power of the world. If they were ordinary people, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't have such a big impact. However, these two people were special. Ning Shu shouted, "Sister Hongxiao, where are you?" Her voice broke the tense atmosphere between the two of them. Ning Shu ran over. Li Hongxiao said to Ning Shu, "Slow down, don't fall. I saw you come out. Why aren't you going back?" "I'm waiting for you at the gate of the courtyard," Ning Shu said. Li Hongxiao said, "I came out to get some mosquito repellent. Let's go back." As she spoke, she took Ning Shu's hand and walked away. After taking 2 steps, she turned back and said to Feng Min, "We didn't see each other today." Feng Min sighed in her heart. "I think so too. I'll go get some mosquito repellent." In the darkness, Li Hongxiao was gnashing her teeth in anger and frustration. It was probably because Old Master Sun didn't let her in and let Feng Min in instead. This made Li Hongxiao quite frustrated and irritated. With Zhu Yu in front, no matter how close she was to Elder Sun, she definitely couldn't compare to Feng Min in Elder Sun's heart. She didn't know how Feng Min got in touch with Elder Sunday Feng Min in her previous life. Feng Min was a very ordinary girl. She had an endless amount of work to do every day. In the countryside, it was normal for men to be preferred over women. If there was a family that doted on their daughter and mistreated their son, that would be unheard of. She was a few years younger than Feng Min, and they didn't usually play together, so she didn't have much contact with Feng Min. However, this Feng Min was somewhat different from the silly girl in her memory. Li Hongxiao paused in her steps. Could it be that Feng Min was also reborn and approached Elder Sun with the same purpose as her? The more Li Hongxiao thought about it, the more she felt that this was the case. She couldn't help but feel irritated. If there was another reborn person, her advantage wouldn't be called an advantage at all. Ning Shu looked at Li Hongxiao and asked, "Sister, what's wrong?" Li Hongxiao probably felt that the child didn't know anything and said, "It's so annoying. Why is it like this? What's the meaning of my life?" If she was reborn, then so be it. What did she mean by incidental? Ning Shu blinked and said, "Of course it's good to be alive. You can run, jump, eat good food, and do many things." She somewhat understood Li Hongxiao's feelings. After her rebirth, she could live better by relying on the Prophet. The goal she set for herself was also more ambitious. It should have been smooth sailing, but now that she had encountered a small setback, she was irritated. In a word, strength couldn't match ambition. This was the source of her pain. "If you died and came back to life, what would you do?" Li Hongxiao asked softly. Ning Shu thought for a moment. "Me? I don't know. Then I'll live well." After all, it wasn't easy to survive. To be able to come back to life was the greatest fortune. Actually, Li Hongxiao and Ning Shu's situation was not much different. After waking up, Ning Shu didn't set any ambitious goals for himself. He would do whatever he wanted. Instead, he worked hard to make himself relaxed and happy. He didn't want to live the busy days of the past anymore. Being alive was a gain. Li Hongxiao sighed. "Why am I telling a child like you all this? You don't know what I'm thinking." Ning Shu also sighed. It was nothing more than his previous life being too ordinary. In this life, he had to become extraordinary. From ordinary to extraordinary, there were too many things to go through. How big of a setback was this? Dinner was an oily stew. In any case, it was white fat meat stewed with some vegetables and vermicelli. This was originally a bit greasy, but for people who lacked oil in their stomachs all year round, It was a rare delicacy. Ning Shu just slowly drank the cornmeal porridge and piles of sweet potatoes. He didn't eat any meat or vegetables. Li Hongxiao looked at the simple and crude stew on the table. She couldn't eat it and didn't pick up any food. Without a separation, everyone ate from the same pot. It was really not up to her to decide how to cook the food. Li Hongxiao's heart ached for these ingredients. They could have been made better, but they ended up like this. Now, Li Hongxiao was thinking about separating from the family. After separating from the family, she would have the freedom to eat. Moreover, she would definitely do business in the future. Without a separation, others would not agree at all. Moreover, even if she made money, it would be a mess of bad debts. Her grandparents were the kind of people who robbed the rich to help the poor. If a child was doing well, they would feel sorry for the poor child and help the poor child. She was really not used to such a big family, but it was not up to a little girl like her to talk about separating from the family. However, her parents were not the kind of people who were disobedient and unfilial. If she talked about separating from the family, they would definitely be angry. However, Li Hongxiao really didn't like this situation. No matter what, she had to hand over everything to her grandparents. Where could she find startup capital? Previously, she had used a little white sugar. When her grandmother found out, she scolded her. She thought that the child in the family secretly ate the white sugar. Li Hongxiao didn't dare to say anything and let her scold her. She was really annoyed. Ning Shu chewed on the soft sweet potato and found that her face was full of annoyance and depression. Between her eyebrows was a knot that couldn't be untied. In fact, sometimes things in the future were not necessarily a good thing, because she had to compare the future with herself. Once the comparison was made, it was easy to lose mental balance and feel especially uncomfortable. Ning Shu had also experienced such things. If she couldn't adjust her mental state, it would be very painful. To watch the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3942. The goal was too vague, and the current situation made it difficult to move an inch. That feeling was too unbearable. Therefore, he should not set such a big goal for himself. When the time came, he would be the one suffering. Just like Ning Shu's current goal was to repair his body as much as possible. If he really could not repair it, it was not impossible to live a leisurely life. If he could repair it, he could take revenge. If he could not repair it, then he would live a peaceful life. He could not give himself too much pressure. Now that there was no number of missions and no pressure to kill, Ning Shu was happy to be a salted fish. Li Hongxiao was giving him too much pressure. To be able to start over was indeed a great blessing. Moreover, Li Hongxiao was an ordinary person. Don't get into a dead end and go against Feng Min. Compared to the two, Feng Min was hardcore and had medical skills. Although Li Hongxiao was not very clear about the details of the situation, she still knew the general direction. Li Hongxiao, on the other hand, had nothing in her hands. She was an ordinary farmer's girl. Ning Shu felt that he was worrying too much. Was it not good to live peacefully, dear? The next day, Li Hongxiao was full of energy again. It seemed that she had thought it through, but Feng Min just had to come over again. When Li Hongxiao saw Feng Min, she felt very uncomfortable. She pulled a long face. Why are you looking for me? Didn't I say that it's best if we don't interact? Li Hongxiao looked at Feng Min inch by inch and found that Feng Min was clean. Even her shoes were brushed clean. Her little face was clean after washing, and her hair was combed very well. It was fluffy but not messy. It could be seen that her hair was not dirty. Many children did not wash their hair for a long time, so their hair was dirty and dusty. Regardless of whether something looked good or not, even if it was patched, as long as it was clean, it would not be ugly. When Li Hongxiao looked at Feng Min, her heart was in turmoil. Feng Min's self-control and self-discipline were the kind of spiritual world that transcended food and clothing. It was not something a child should have at all. As far as she knew, Feng Min's family was not rich. They were so poor that they struggled with food and clothing. They could not even reach food and clothing. Then, Feng Min was definitely not the original Feng Min. She was very unhappy. Of course, Li Hongxiao would not casually ask the other party, lest she expose herself. Feng Min said to Li Hongxiao, "Let's talk in the field." Li Hongxiao followed Feng Min. She wanted to see what Feng Min wanted to say to her. Ning Shu, what was he doing? It had only been one night, and the two of them were meeting again. Ning Shu could see with his naked eyes that the two of them were competing with their inner strength. He suddenly understood why this world was looking for him. It was really tiring. Ning Shu also followed. When they looked over, Ning Shu played with the mud on the ground. Feng Min said to Li Hongxiao, "I'll tell you the truth. I actually know a little about massage. Mr. Sun is not in good health. He has serious rheumatism and muscle soreness. Get something for Elder Sun to eat. You know that my family is very poor. If I treat Elder Sun's illness, we can cooperate." Feng Min felt that the safest thing was to have a community of interests. If two people had the same purpose and goal, they would not betray each other. Li Hongxiao looked at Feng Min indifferently. "How do you know how to massage? Where did you learn it? No one in your family studied medicine. I've never heard of you having medical skills before." She was sure that this was not the original Feng Min, just like her, or she was not Feng Min at all. In her memory, the future Feng Min was not a doctor either. Li Hongxiao's expression changed. In this era where feudal superstitions were abolished, Feng Min's situation really made Li Hongxiao a little scared. This was simply a lonely ghost possessing her. It was too scary. Li Hongxiao was a little afraid that this lonely ghost would do something to her. Feng Min was also helpless. She originally wanted to learn some medical skills from the barefoot doctor in the village so that she could have a complete explanation. However, when she told her family, everyone objected. They even said that she was a girl and had a wild heart. She even wanted to learn to be a barefoot doctor. Not to mention that the doctors in the medical center would not accept a girl. It was simply a dream to use this excuse not to work. In this backward and ignorant era, Feng Min also found it difficult to move an inch. She was even discovered when she secretly treated a patient. Li Hongxiao felt that she had to calm Feng Min down first and not let this lonely ghost discover her situation. She coughed and said, "Then that's it?" Feng Min nodded. "Then let's high-five as an oath." Li Hongxiao hesitated for a moment. She quickly high-fived Feng Min and withdrew her hand. She wiped her palms behind her back. She high-fived a ghost. After Feng Min left, Li Hongxiao was trembling all over. Ning Shu walked over and asked, "Sister, what's wrong?" Li Hongxiao wiped the sweat on her face and said reluctantly, "It's okay." She had seen a ghost. Then what about the original Feng Min? Was she eaten by this lonely ghost? Li Hongxiao was now in a difficult position. If she fell out with Feng Min, she did not know what that ghost would do. But if she pretended to be polite like this, who knew what would happen to her? Feng Min probably did not expect that her bottom line was seen through by a girl. It was probably because Li Hongxiao was still young that she let down her guard. In the end, she underestimated Li Hongxiao. She did not expect that Li Hongxiao's core was also an adult. Ning Shu frowned and thought about this matter from the beginning to the end. First, the Koi ordered Zhang Qingqing to bring back a wild boar. Li Hongxiao, who got the meat, secretly gave some to Old Sunday. And Feng Min happened to be treating Old Sunday. A mountain could not accommodate 2 tigers, let alone so many tigers. This matter involved 3 people. The only one who was not involved was Li Zueyun. Li Zueyun, who had a space. To be honest, among the 4 people, Ning Shu felt that Li Zueyun's space was the most dangerous. Wild systems and spaces had an ultimate goal, which was to absorb the law of luck of the world they were in. They were like parasites. The other 3 absorbed by one person, but Li Zueyun had a space and a person. In such an age of chaos, there was very little spiritual energy between heaven and earth. There was a spirit spring in that space, which was a bit abnormal. This kind of spiritual energy must have been absorbed by the world. And it was unknown how long such a space had existed. Li Zueyun was very low-key. She had never mentioned this thing to anyone. She ate secretly and did not think about using the space to do anything. But now the situation was tense. When the policy was relaxed, Li Zueyun could rely on the space to develop. She would definitely develop better than the other 3. With a drop of spirit spring, the food she made would be better than others. Who could withstand this kind of crushing competitiveness? Wealth and providence would only increase. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile phone address. Chapter 3943. Ning Shu patted his head. In fact, the most important thing to solve was Li Tsueyun's space. As for the other three, let's talk about them later. Li Tsueyun's space was a thumb-sized snow-white snail pendant. Except for its snow-white body, there was nothing eye-catching about this pendant. She carried the space with her everywhere. It was a special treasure. It was impossible to get the space from her hands. She didn't even tell her family about it and never revealed it. She always stuffed it in her clothes. How could he get something as important as her life? And now Li Tsueyun was connected to the space, at least in the spiritual direction. Even if the rope fell, it wouldn't be lost. He didn't know if this kind of space would let the owner die of old age, or if it would let the owner's soul go to the afterlife. Ning Shu encountered some systems and spaces that would absorb the owner's soul after the owner died. Regarding the relationship between the space and the host, it wasn't about who was the master and who was the puppet. It seemed that because of the space, some people's lives were very different. They could have anything they wanted. They had money, power, and fame. But in other words, the host was more like a puppet that relied on the space to live. After all, there was no free lunch in the world. There was no such thing as a free pie. Ning Shu thought about whether he could cut off the connection between the space and Li Tsueyun. If there was no connection, the space would probably give up on Li Tsueyun and look for a new host. It was just that the resources in the space, a large area of land, and even some ancient paintings, antiques, and so on were all gone. Obviously, this space had more than one host. This kind of space was a closed place that others couldn't detect. It was an absolutely safe place. With the accumulation of generations, the wealth inside was really a lot. Now was the time to get rid of the old. These paintings, antiques, and even gold were considered the old. Li Tsueyun didn't dare to take them out. But with the passage of time, it would usher in a golden age. Antiques were not a joke. At that time, the people would realize wealth, and these things would be hot goods. Even if Li Tsueyun didn't have any startup capital, selling some antiques could make her stand on the finish line. To be honest, this feeling was really cool. Who didn't want to succeed without spending money? Ning Shu intended to get close to Li Tsueyun. Although he was related to Li Tsueyun, he didn't have much contact with her. Li Tsueyun's family situation wasn't very good either. Everyone was having a hard time. However, now that Li Tsueyun has the space, she can make more meals for her family and secretly make some spiritual spring water for them to drink. Planting vegetables and grains on a large piece of land could also make the family's lives slightly better. Now, everything was done in groups. Everyone worked together to earn work points. Li Tsueyu's space had a huge advantage because there was a large piece of land. There were no restrictions on raising these animals. Now that there were strict restrictions, if they raised too many of them, they would be poaching the Socialist Foundation. Ning Shu said to his cousin, Li Hongxiao, "Sis, I want to play with Tsueji." Tsueji was Li Tsueyun's younger sister. Li Hongxiao had been absent-minded for the past few days. She didn't send anything to Elder Sunday occasionally, she would sneak out at night. She squatted not far from Old Man Sun's house. When she returned, her expression was particularly ugly. Because Feng Min often went in and out of Elder Sun's room, Li Hongxiao felt a strong sense of loss and fear. Feng Min was a ghost. Li Hongxiao wanted to rush over and shake Elder Sun to stay away from her. Don't believe her. She was a ghost. To be honest, Li Hongxiao really wanted to deal with Feng Min and report her to Elder Sunday. However, Li Hongxiao was afraid of breaking the vases. Because of Elder Sun's identity, if Elder Sun was rehabilitated in the future and regained his identity, he would definitely take revenge on her. Wouldn't it be as simple as killing an ant? If she reported it, it would definitely implicate Elder Sunday. She would have to drag Elder Sun out again. At that time, Elder Sun would definitely have a bad impression of her. However, Feng Min made her feel like a fishbone was stuck in her throat. If she reported it, Feng Min might not be able to tell anyone about her sending things. She wouldn't be able to get away with it. It was simply too difficult. Ning Shu called his cousin again. Sis, I'm going to play with Sueji. Are you coming? Her state made Ning Shu very worried. He was worried that the two children would bump into each other again. Li Hongxiao obviously found that Feng Min was abnormal. Feng Min had relaxed and thought that she had reached a consensus after negotiating with Li Hongxiao. It was likely that they had reached a consensus unilaterally. It was obvious from the fact that Li Hongxiao hadn't sent anything over recently. However, Feng Min ran to elder son's place in the middle of the night. If these children didn't bump into each other, their luck wouldn't be depleted so quickly. Li Hongxiao came back to her senses. Go ahead. Don't go to the water. As she spoke, she picked up the sickle and carried the basket on her back to cut the pigweed. Even though Li Hongxiao's heart was filled with thoughts and ideas, she still had to do this work. Ning Shu arrived at Li Zueyun's house. Li Zueyun was feeding 2 chickens. Ning Shu looked at the chicken coop. The 2 hens' feathers were especially smooth and bright. They were especially energetic. If it weren't for the lack of a comb, they would look like valiant and energetic roosters. Sister Zueyun, your chickens are growing really well. Li Zueyun looked at Ning Shu's little sister and asked her sister to play with Ning Shu. Obviously, she didn't want to play with the overly immature Ning Shu. Li Zueji was about the same age as Ning Shu. Previously, due to malnutrition, her hair was sparse and withered. Recently, her condition seemed to be much better, and her face was a little chubbier. In a way, that space seemed to be an existence that sacrificed itself for others. The spirit spring inside could be used freely. The space could be used freely. Anything important could be placed inside. The space allowed the owner and the people around the owner to benefit. It was no wonder that the owner would carefully protect it. Ning Shu played childish games with Li Tiji while looking at the busy Li Tun. Ning Shu ran over to help grab the basket and said, Sister Tsung, let me help you. When he touched Li Zueyun's hand, Ning Shu's consciousness followed Li Zueyun's hand and drifted to the pendant. Li Zueyun retracted her hand and said coldly, No need, you go play with Zueji. Oh, Ning Shu replied and turned to play with Li Zueji. That consciousness rested on the pendant, but it couldn't do anything to the pendant. Even if this space was just a space, there were still space walls. It wasn't easy to enter at all. He didn't know how long this space was and how easy it would be to deal with it. After playing for an hour, Ning Shu said goodbye to Li Zueji. Before he left, he said to Li Zueji, Zueji, you look better now. You've become fair. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3944. Li Tiji was small and innocent. She asked with stars in her eyes, Really? Have I really become prettier? Even a child would want to become prettier. Ning Shu nodded. You really have. Your sister has also become prettier. Li Zueji was interrupted by her sister before she could finish. Li Zuelan said to Ning Shu, I told her not to go out in the sun, so she's a little fairer. You have to play with her less in the future. She needs to take a nap at noon. Ning Shu nodded. Okay. After walking away, Ning Shu could still hear the intermittent conversation between the sisters. Play with her less in the future. Don't interact with Third Grandpa's family. Third Grandpa was referring to Ning Shu and Li Hongxiao's grandfather. Why, sister? There's no why. Just be obedient. I'll make vinegar cabbage for you tonight. Li Zueyun was very cautious. Even if it was a child like Ning Shu, she was very careful. When Ning Shu returned home, his cousin, Li Hongxiao, was carrying a big basket of pigweed. She was exhausted. When she saw the leisurely Ning Shu, she couldn't help but say, You're so lucky. You run around and play every day. Ning Shu said, Then I'll go harvest pigweed with sister next time. Don't. If you can't do it well, I'll have to watch over you. Don't find things for me to do. Li Zueyun refused without thinking. If she wasn't careful and the child ran away and fell into the ditch, her parents would eat her up. She wasn't her biological sister. Why did she have to bring her along? In the dead of night, Ning Shu wanted to use that consciousness to enter the space. However, her power was now suppressed by the heavenly Tao. She couldn't even use the spatial laws. This was an ordinary world to begin with. It was impossible for Ning Shu to enter this world with the power to destroy the heavens and extinguish the earth with a single punch. Ning Shu's consciousness suffered a violent backlash from the space. It probably sensed the danger and desperately rejected Ning Shu's consciousness. This made it difficult for Ning Shu's consciousness to move. It was much more difficult for him to crack this space from the inside. Li Tsuyun slept very uncomfortably because the pendant on her chest was boiling hot. It was so hot that she couldn't sleep. She took the pendant off and didn't know what to do. With such a high temperature, wouldn't the chicken, duck, and fish inside die? What happened to the space? The space was Li Tsuyun's lifeblood. It allowed her and her family to live a better life. If she didn't have the space, Li Tsuyun wouldn't know what to do. It is easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but difficult to go from extravagance to frugality. Li Tsuyun wanted to enter the space, but she found that the space rejected her entry. In the past, she could enter the space with just a thought. Now that she couldn't enter, Li Tsuyun was completely dumbfounded. Her scalp went numb, and her first reaction was that the sky had collapsed. The reason why Li Tsuyun couldn't enter the space was very simple. It was because the space had sensed an invader. This invader wanted to break through the space's barrier. At this time, the space had to close the door to prevent the invader from entering. Once the door was closed, no one could enter, including Li Tsuyun, the host. The space activated its self-protection mode. When this crisis was over, Li Tsuyun could enter again. But Li Tsuyun didn't know what happened to the space. Why she couldn't enter the space all of a sudden. Things outside couldn't be taken in, and things inside couldn't be taken out. She was used to the convenience brought by the space. Without the space, how could she live? Especially the spiritual spring inside, and the things she hid in the space. Without good food, how could she grow white and tender, tall and slender? The benefits brought by the spiritual spring were obvious. Li Tsuyun held the scalding hot space. She was so anxious that tears fell out. She tried to calm down. How could she help the space now? Li Tsuyun got out of bed, scooped up a scoop of cold water, and threw the scalding hot space into the water. She hoped that this could cool down the space. She hoped that the space would be fine. Otherwise, this barren life would be too hard to endure. If she didn't get the space, everyone would live the same life, and it wouldn't matter. But after enjoying it and then losing it, it was as painful as digging out her heart. Getting what she wanted was of course happy, but the most painful thing was to lose what she had and never be able to have it again. Li Tsuyun didn't sleep all night. She stared blankly at the scoop, constantly changing the water for the space. But the space was always scalding hot. Li Tsuyun wanted to cry. She begged in her heart. Nothing must happen to the space. Absolutely nothing. How could she live without the space? She couldn't live. Ning Shu also couldn't attack the space for a long time. This space had the ability to defend itself. Perhaps it could really absorb enough laws and spiritual energy, and then it could form a world. In fact, forming a world of living beings was a good thing. But this kind of space was like a parasite. It relied on absorbing the fate of the world of living beings to strengthen itself. At first, she thought that entering the space with her own body might be slightly stronger than entering the space with her soul. After all, the soul entered an ordinary body. But she didn't expect that the suppression would be so strong. She wanted to enter the space and directly break through the space's wall, releasing the spiritual energy inside and returning it to the world. It was impossible for the space to have spiritual energy for no reason. Energy was conserved. If there was more here, there would be less there. But she couldn't enter. But Ning Shu found that at the same time that he couldn't enter, Li Tsuyun also couldn't enter. In this way, half of the goal was achieved. After a long time, either Li Tsuyun gave up on this useless space, or the space gave up on the host. The sealed space also didn't absorb the spiritual energy between heaven and earth. The laws were already destiny. Ning Shu used his consciousness to disturb the space from time to time, so that the space would always be in a sealed state. But this made Li Tsuyun anxious. The space had been closed to her, and the quality of her life had dropped a lot. In the past, she could casually make any food or spiritual spring and it would taste good. But without the spirit spring, how could he casually make something that tasted good? What was the point of having a chef if it was so simple? She could make good food randomly, so what was the point of learning cooking? Lee Tsueyun's family also felt that their life was a little different. In the past, they were always full of energy. They didn't feel tired doing the same work before, but now they felt very tired. The food at home didn't taste good. If they forced themselves to eat other things, it would be a little painful. Anyway, the family atmosphere wasn't very harmonious. As the cook, Lee Tsueyun couldn't avoid being criticized. They said that Lee Tsueyun didn't cook as carefully as before. She casually made food, regardless of whether the taste was good or not. To view the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3945. Lee Tsueyun felt so wrong that she wanted to cry. If she had known earlier, she would have brought out more spirit spring water. She never thought that anything would happen to the space. It was not safe to bring out more spirit spring water. If she wanted spirit spring water, she could go in and get it at any time. But now that there was a problem with the space, she was anxious, and her family was still blaming her. This made Lee Tsueyun feel that her heart, which was full of thinking for her family, was eaten by a dog. But even if there was a problem with the space, Lee Tsueyun did not intend to tell her family. Such a shocking thing, no one would believe her. Especially now that the space was broken, it was even more impossible to prove. Maybe the space would be fine. Lee Tsueyun tried to enter the space many times every day, but it was still not working. The space was always boiling hot. Lee Tsueyun felt that the livestock raised in the space might have died from the heat. And the vegetables planted in it, sigh. She also could not eat the food she cooked. In fact, these dishes were not bad. It was not to the point that she could not eat, but compared to before, it was too tragic. Lee Tsueyun was in a very bad mood. She was silent. Her family saw her like this and were a little worried. They grabbed her and asked if something had happened. Lee Tsueyun said that she was fine, but her family did not believe it. No one at the table complained that the food was not good. After all, the person who cooked was in a bad mood. Ning Shu conquered the space day after day, but the space wall of this space was really thick. And Ning Shu could not use the space law now. He could only rely on his brother's consciousness to slowly grind it day by day. It was good enough if he could sense the danger in the space. This way, the space could not be used. When Ning Shu was wholeheartedly fighting the space, a big thing happened in the production team. That was, someone found that Feng Min was in contact with Elder Sun, who lived in the cow sheet. And she was caught. And it looked like they were waiting for her. Feng Min was caught just like that. This matter caused a huge uproar and attracted the attention of the production team. After all, at this sensitive time, an Elder Sun had such a sensitive identity. Usually, no one dared to get close to Elder Sunday. When they heard that Feng Min was in contact with Elder Sun, they were all very surprised. Then, a look of disdain appeared on their faces. Even the Feng family did not expect their daughter to be so daring as to receive such strange looks from others. When Ning Shu heard this news, she was stunned. During this period of time, all her attention was on that wisp of consciousness. She tossed and turned in bed at night and stared blankly with her chin propped up during the day. She had no time to pay attention to Feng Min's affairs. Feng Min had underestimated the cruelty of this era. Everyone had to be careful. The moment he heard the news, Ning Shu subconsciously looked at Li Hongxiao. After all, Li Hongxiao was the clearest about this matter. Did she say that? Ning Shu couldn't figure it out. Even if Feng Min had curried favor with Elder Sun, what good would it do Li Hongxiao to report it? She knew that Old Master Sun's identity was not simple, but she still risked offending Old Master Sun to do this. Moreover, Feng Min might also bite Li Hongxiao. In terms of interests, Li Hongxiao really didn't have much to gain. Li Hongxiao frowned tightly. Her expression was a little ugly as she muttered, "Why was she so careless?" In the end, she was still discovered. Li Hongxiao was very worried that Feng Min would tell others about the meat delivery. However, only the two of them knew about it now. Feng Min would definitely be the first to suspect her. Li Hongxiao cursed in her heart. The more she thought about it, the more she trembled. She felt that she had suffered an unexpected calamity. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows in surprise. Could it be that Li Hongxiao really didn't report it? Then how could it be? Feng Min happened to be caught. It was simply premeditated and organized. It was so coincidental. Feng Min and Old Master's son were taken to the wide bar where the production team was drying the grain. They were going to be educated. The two of them were in a very sorry state. Old Master's son had experienced a lot and was able to remain calm in the face of such a situation. However, Feng Min was different. Although XNZ was an adult, she was born in an era when she was living a good life. She had never encountered such a situation. Now that she was tied up and facing the entire production team, it was as if she was nailed to the rack of shame and had to accept everyone's disdain. This made her view of the world crumble. In the end, it collapsed with a bang. When did it become a crime to even treat someone's illness? She was going to be despised by others. No matter who the other party was, he was just a patient. Old Master's son was tied up. He straightened his back and said to the team leader, "It has nothing to do with this little girl. It's because I saw that she could use herbs to treat my illness. The pain in my body was unbearable, so I forced her to treat me." Feng Min's eyes stung and she almost cried. At this moment, everyone in her family wanted nothing to do with her. Because of such treatment, everyone was afraid. It was understandable. Now that Old Master's son was taking all the blame, Feng Min's heart choked up. She scanned the crowd and fixed her gaze on Li Hongxiao. Just as Li Hongxiao had expected, Feng Min believed that Li Hongxiao was the instigator of this matter. Li Hongxiao was so wrong that she wished she could fly in June. Was her brain filled with shit? What good would it do her to push Feng Min out? Li Hongxiao was very afraid now. She was afraid that Feng Min would say something shocking. The production team leader looked at Feng Min. "You know how to treat illnesses?" He then looked at the Feng family. The Feng family members were also at a loss. When did their child know how to treat illnesses? Feng Min opened her mouth. She was a little unsure if this matter was good or bad for her. Could her knowing how to treat illnesses increase her bargaining chip? After all, medical treatment in this era was lacking. There was a lack of doctors. If there was someone who knew how to treat illnesses, it would undoubtedly be a good thing. However, where did her medical skills come from? It was a big problem. She couldn't possibly say that she knew medical skills out of thin air. Feng Min's mind was spinning. She could say that she had secretly looked at the doctors in the health center and learned some, but it was just blind learning. Feng Min almost swore to the heavens that it was blind. At this moment, Feng Min only wanted to clear her name. She didn't want to drag someone down with her. If she wasn't at the end of her rope, she definitely had to protect herself and not go all out. The onlookers didn't believe her and mocked Old Master Sunday. "You're crazy. You actually let a child treat you." "Old Master Son, I have no choice. I'm afraid of the pain." Feng Min was, after all, a member of the production team. If this matter blew up, it wouldn't look good for the entire production team, especially if other people were involved. No one would be able to live in peace. This matter was settled just like that. The Feng family had many work points deducted. As the other party involved, Old Master Son's treatment was even worse. Li Hongxiao heaved a sigh of relief. However, when she met Feng Min's hateful gaze, she felt terrible. To watch the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3946. Li Hongxiao and Feng Min had become enemies because of this matter. In the future, they would be extremely jealous when they met. Feng Min had a deeper understanding of this era. After she successfully grew up, she had to be careful with her words and actions. Being stared at by Feng Min with hatred, Li Hongxiao's heart turned cold. What would a ghost do to her if she was stared at like this? Ning Shu could clearly feel the collision of luck between the two of them, and it was quickly consumed. Feng Min's luck had a trace of purple. After all, she had gone through thick and thin with Elder Sunday. And Li Hongxiao's luck was suppressed. There was a difference between having a hard core and not having one. In the future, Feng Min would treat people in the production team because of her medical skills, and the situation would become better. There were still a few years before Li Hongxiao could develop. A few years was enough for Feng Min to get rid of Li Hongxiao. The better Feng Min's life was, the worse Li Hongxiao's life would be. Her luck was getting more and more suppressed. Coincidentally, the reason why Feng Min was caught was because the production team had been catching leeches at night recently. These leeches were very large and looked like slugs. These leeches only appeared at night. If one caught enough leeches, they could even earn work points. These leeches were very good medicine. Of course, the villagers collected them and gave them to the production team. They were also collective property. Elder's son lived not far from the water, so he naturally walked there. Then he was seen. Even though Feng Min later found out that it was not Li Hongxiao who reported it, her hostility towards Li Hongxiao did not decrease. Li Hongxiao was also angry. It was reasonable for a malicious ghost to occupy someone else's body. Since she had already offended her, she might as well offend her completely. The wisp of consciousness that Ning Shu had placed in the space was about to dissipate, but he still could not open the space. Ning Shu realized that this space could not be underestimated. Did he have to get close to Li Zueyun? Not to mention getting close, Li Zueyun was now a frightened bird. No one could get close to her. She was very vigilant. Even if the space was very hot, she still carried it close to her. Li Zueyun would never give up on the space. Ning Shu wasn't using his consciousness to attack the space. Instead, he was constantly harassing the space, making it think that he was in danger. When Ning Shu went to play with Li Zueji, he was chased away by Li Zueyun. She said that Li Zueji had to work for the family. Not every child was like Ning Shu, who had nothing better to do. Since he couldn't get in touch with Li Zueyun, Ning Shu felt that he had to find another way. This space was really too tough. Li Zueyun carried a big bucket to the waterside to wash clothes. Ning Shu carried a small basket and a sickle and followed behind Li Zueyun. They were cutting the pigweed beside the ditch where the clothes were washed. Because Li Zueyun had something on her mind, she didn't really respond when the young wife and auntie, who were washing clothes, talked to her. She was really annoyed, so she just gave a perfunctory reply. Li Zueyun lowered her head and bent over to wash the clothes. She felt something slip inside the clothes, followed by a thump. A red knitted belt and a white snail fell into the water. Li Zueyun's face turned pale. She quickly touched her neck, but she didn't find the space. Without thinking, she jumped into the pond. Although the weather was hot, the water in the pond was very cold. No one knew how deep it was. Seeing Li Zueyun jump down like a madman and sink, the women washing clothes on the shore panicked and quickly called for someone to save her. Why did she jump down like she was possessed? Li Zueyun didn't know how to swim. She sank and used her hands to fish, but all she touched were some seaweed. She didn't sink to the bottom at all. The space was so small, it was no different from looking for a needle in a haystack. Soon, Li Zueyun couldn't breathe. Her lungs were struggling. She opened her mouth and drank a mouthful of water. She struggled to float, but her body didn't listen to her. It was getting heavier and heavier. The fear of death shrouded her heart. Li Zueyun became more and more afraid. At this time, she didn't care about looking for the space. She just wanted to climb up. Ning Shu threw down the sickle and ran to the edge of the pond. He released his spiritual force, went deep into the pond, and lifted Li Zueyun, who was powerless to struggle. Originally, it was a busy time to harvest wheat. Hearing the shouts here, people quickly came over. Hearing that someone fell into the water, some people who could swim jumped down to save her. Li Zueyun was rescued by an educated youth named Lu Yunzhan. Lu Yunzhan dragged Li Zueyun ashore wet. He was wet all over, his thick black hair dripping with water, and his clothes clinging to his body, outlining his strong body. Some young women blushed. Lu Yunzhan, who saved people, never touched Li Zueyun again. At this time, it was a big crime to be a hooligan, although it was to save people. Soon, a lot of people gathered here. Lu Yunzhan pushed the crowd away and left. Li Hongxiao, Zhang Qingqing, and Feng Min looked at Lu Yunzhan's back with flickering eyes. Lu Yunzhan was good-looking. Even if he had a buzz cut, he looked more handsome and burly than other men. In this era where everything was done manually, a burly and powerful figure was quite competitive. But the most important thing now was Li Tsueyun. Li Tsueyun's family rushed over and beat and cried Li Tsueyun, who had just woken up. "What are you doing, you dead girl? Why are you not careful?" A talkative old woman next to her said, "She didn't fall by mistake. She jumped in by herself." Li Tsueyun's family cried even more sadly. Li Tsueyun's face was pale, and her whole body trembled. The fear of death and the pain of losing her space made Li Tsueyun so anxious that she fainted directly. Li Tsueyun, who was carried home, had a high fever. She was talking in her sleep, saying something about space and so on. Her family was waiting for her to talk nonsense. Ning Shu looked at the pond. It was impossible for the space to fall like this. He had a spiritual connection with Li Tsueyun, so it was not a big problem for her to fall. But Li Tsueyun jumped down to look for the space without thinking. She had probably noticed something. Since the space did not let her enter, she guessed that she might lose her space. Because there was a consciousness around the space, Ning Shu was very clear about its location. Since the space abandoned Li Tsueyun, it was now ownerless. It would quietly wait for the next host, so that it could get rid of Ning Shu's harassment. It felt that it was very dangerous to stay by Li Tsueyun's side, so it had to give up on Li Tsueyun. Ning Shu used his spiritual power to catch the space. Holding the rope, the space shook, wanting to fly out of Ning Shu's control. Li Tsueyun's high fever had not subsided, and it was getting worse. Li Tsueyun's family saw this situation and knew that they had to send her to the hospital quickly. If they delayed any longer, she might die. They borrowed a tractor from the brigade and prepared to take Li Tsueyun to the county for treatment. To watch the new chapter of Zue, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3947. Many industries had closed down and were no longer operating. What's the point of operating if you're dead? It was not easy to find these herbs. After the incident, the company was closed down and all the herbs in the warehouse were confiscated. He found someone to test the medicine and controlled the virus. His organs were no longer failing. Zheng Xian turned on his computer and started the live broadcast. When the viewers saw Zheng Xian, they started cursing him. When Zheng Xian took out the special medicine, he said that this medicine could cure diseases. It was developed by his research institute, and if anyone wanted it, they could come to the company immediately. Kong Beibei was sweating profusely and her muscles were tight. This had happened in her previous life and she was dreaming about it again. It was torture for her. The netizens were skeptical, but the number of people cursing Zheng Xian suddenly decreased. No one could guarantee that they would not be infected by the virus. If the other party really had the medicine and did not sell it to them, they could only wait for death. More people were doubtful. Zheng Xian directly said that it was up to them to believe it or not. It had nothing to do with him. Her arrogant attitude made it difficult for others to believe her. Soon after, Zheng Xian's phone was bombarded with calls. Everyone knew that Zheng Xian had something in his hands. It could control the virus. Many people rushed to the biopharmaceutical company as fast as they could. Unfortunately, the walls and buildings of the pharmaceutical company were full of filth. When the wind blew, the smell was horrible. It was originally used to disgust Zheng Xian, but now it seemed that they were disgusted. Other than the sun, there was nothing in the world that could not be looked at directly. After a while, the entire building was bustling with people. Zheng Xian stood on the rooftop and looked at the people below. The wind was blowing from above. Some people saw Zheng Xian on the rooftop and looked up at him. There was an uproar. Kong Beibei, who was sleeping, cried. Her muscles were twitching. She struggled as if a ghost was pressing down on her bed. She wanted to stop it, just like when her soul was drifting and watching Zheng Xian die at the prime of his life. Zheng Xian took out the medicine and said proudly, "This is the medicine that can control the virus. Life is so fragile. Just a virus invisible to the naked eye can kill. Now he can be saved with a few pills." When Ji Hong heard this, she hurriedly went to the rooftop. When she saw Zheng Xian, who looked like he was about to fly away, she was so scared that her heart went numb. She almost cried and said, "Beebus, Zheng Xian, the special medicine has been developed. What are you doing? Zheng Xian shook the medicine bottle in his hand. The pills inside hit the bottle and made a sound. This won't help. So what if they have this medicine? In the future, when people talk about the biopharmaceutical company, it will be a black company that spread the virus. This time, he would definitely not be able to make a comeback. In order to appease the public, he would have to accept the punishment. Then he would die because of the virus, or he would be suffering now. Ji Hong said, if we give this medicine method, it will definitely be saved. Zheng Xian, don't do anything stupid. Even if this pharmaceutical company is gone, so what? I don't believe that you care about this company so much. Zheng Xian was not a person who would sacrifice his life for money. He saw money as a tool to achieve his dreams. Ji Hong begged, boss, don't leave me. What should I do if you leave me? I said that I wanted to work for you, but now you're leaving me. I don't agree. Zheng Xian looked at his capable subordinate. Warmth flashed in his eyes. You will be fine. I never doubted your tenacity. But Ji Hong was very helpless. She wanted to keep Zheng Xian, but she also knew that with Zheng Xian's character, she would not be able to persuade him. If Kong Beibei was still here, maybe Zheng Xian would still feel that there was something in this world that he would miss. Unfortunately, Kong Beibei was no longer here. Firstly, Kong Beibei's death and departure. Secondly, Zheng Xian had suffered too much malice and abuse from the company. His heart was soaked in ice water, and sometimes it was soaked in boiling hot chili water. He wanted to leave at this time when everyone was watching him. Zheng Xian said to Ji Hong, I've left all my inheritance to you. Live well. Ji Hong shook her head. I don't want your inheritance. I have hands and feet, and I can earn my own money. I only want you. Don't scare me like this. I'm scared. As she spoke, she slowly moved towards Zheng Xian. Zheng Xian shook his head at her. Don't come over. I want to talk to you properly now. Ji Hong's body stiffened, and she did not dare to move anymore. Below the building, life-saving tools were being set up. Police sirens and horns were blaring. There were more and more people below the building, and it was extremely crowded. The people below all advised Zheng Xian to calm down and not do anything stupid. Zheng Xian looked down at the crowd below with a contemptuous smile. His eyes were full of disdain. He took out a medicine bottle, opened it, and poured it on his hand. These are really effective medicines. Do you want them? The faces of the people below were a little ugly, but no one said they wanted it. There were even people who used loudspeakers to insult Zheng Xian upstairs. They really couldn't stand him being so arrogant. He was the one who was in the wrong. He still did not know that he was in the wrong. He should change his attitude and ask for everyone's forgiveness. They had never seen such an arrogant entrepreneur. What good would it do him to offend the consumers? Reality would teach him a lesson. Zheng Xian turned to Ji Hong and said, Leaf, don't get caught to make medicine. Even if I want to help them make medicine, now is not the time. Ji Hong shook her head with red eyes. She suddenly smiled and said, Zheng Xian, let's go together. No, this is the last time I order you to leave. You're fired. After saying that, Zheng Xian ignored Ji Hong. He poured out all the pills in the bottle and crushed them one by one in front of the people below. The ingredients are not easy to find this time, and it's a new discovery. I destroyed this thing. Let me think, it's probably 20 or 30 years before the discovery of this medicine. 20 or 30 years. I don't know if that's enough time for people to die, Zheng Xian said as he crushed the pills. Piece by piece, the white powder disappeared as the wind blew. Everyone looked at each other. They did not know if Zheng Xian was telling the truth or not. If it was true, then they had crushed something that many people were waiting for to save their lives. He dared to crush it like that? Was he crazy? Someone stopped Zheng Xian. Don't crush it. We can talk about it. You can ask for as much money as you want. Zheng Xian snorted and said with disdain, What do you mean I don't want? I just like to see you guys struggle. It's so nice to see you guys struggle together. He was a pervert. The pills in the bottle were getting fewer and fewer. Everyone's hearts were in their mouths. Chapter 3948. If these pills were real, and they could really suppress and kill the virus, then these pills would be equivalent to human lives being lost. What kind of people were they? They created this virus and wreaked havoc in the world. They didn't even know that they were in the wrong. Now that they had developed a special medicine, they wanted to destroy it. This kind of people should forever be nailed to the cross of shame. They should be despised by everyone and blamed by future generations. Zheng Xian knew what these people were thinking. He just sneered. This virus would definitely appear. It was just that it would appear in his hands. Whether it was in ancient times or now, humans had always been suffering from the torture of diseases. Medicine had its limitations. It had been a long time since the development of herbal medicine to modern Western medicine. For example, the famous penicillin. If it wasn't for the discovery of this special medicine by a biopharmaceutical company, the discovery of this special medicine would have been delayed. It would definitely be discovered, but not now. The crowd below started to get restless. Everyone was trying to persuade Zheng Xian to calm down. Life was precious and he shouldn't joke around with his life. There was no hurdle that couldn't be overcome. Ji Hong smiled at Zheng Xian, but she was crying. Look, they've forgiven you. You've already atoned for your sins by discovering the special medicine. Zheng Xian sneered. Who needs their forgiveness? What did I do wrong? I didn't commit any crimes. I don't need their forgiveness. They are just lowly rats who are struggling at death's door and possess the most vicious thoughts. I feel insulted when I think of using my medicine on them. Zheng Xian's eyes were filled with disdain. The crowd below were all rats. Other than wasting resources, they were useless. They were waiting for someone to save them. Once something happened, they would immediately reveal their ugly faces. It made people want to vomit. Ji Hong was speechless. Although she knew that Zheng Xian was cold and didn't have any empathy or sympathy for others, she didn't expect others to be so unbearable and ugly in his heart. Yes, that's right. But you can't die for a group of rats, right? It's not worth it at all. Who would care about what rats say, right? Ji Hong followed Zheng Xian's logic. He hoped that Zheng Xian would not be impulsive. Zheng Xian shook his head. I don't want to be judged by a group of rats. There are so many rats accompanying me, and they have been tortured. Tell me, how does it feel to have hope and then have it shattered? Ji Hong was speechless. She was anxious to death, but she did not know what to do. How could she make Zheng Xian give up such a dangerous idea? She liked him and didn't want him to die. Ji Hong shouted at him, Don't you want to know how Kong Beibei died? Don't you want to know who killed Kong Beibei? Zheng Xian's face stiffened. As for the man who coaxed Kong Beibei, he had already gone to hell. That rat couldn't take the threat and confessed everything. He had taken a fancy to Kong Beibei's loneliness and took advantage of it. He had used sweet words to take Kong Beibei away. He had also taken a fancy to Kong Beibei's money. After causing Kong Beibei's death, he had taken away all of Kong Beibei's belongings. Could there be a mastermind behind Kong Beibei's death? Why didn't that man say anything? His tone was filled with greed for Kong Beibei. There was no mastermind. Ji Hong said with red eyes, You're wrong. It's not like that. I caused Kong Beibei's death. I was jealous of her. I was jealous that she didn't cherish you when she had you and made you sad. She had nothing to do. Other than making you sad, she didn't do anything. She kept making you sad, but you indulged her. What's so good about her? Ji Hong's voice was extremely hoarse. Her tone was filled with jealousy and sadness. Clearly, these were her heartfelt words. What's so good about her? She relied on you but was so fierce to you. When she was outside, she was so timid and needed you to protect her. If you didn't protect her, she might have caused trouble again. She would have been bullied again. If she had been as ruthless to you, she wouldn't have been bullied and cheated. She deserved to die. In the end, Ji Hong's tone was filled with disgust. She detested Kong Beibei. Zheng Xian had always been calm in the face of death and in the face of a group of people. But now, his face was stiff and his pupils were trembling. His lips moved. It's really you? Ji Hong nodded. Yes, it's me. I can see that your wife is someone else. I can see that you're happy. I just can't stand her trampling on you like this. Come here. Come here and kill me to avenge Kong Bebe. I killed your wife. Zheng Xian narrowed his eyes. He calmed down a little. It's not you. It won't be you. It's me. I was the one who found that man to get in touch with Kong Bebe. According to Kong Bebe's stupidity, she's so innocent and naive. She'll believe whatever others say. She won't believe anything you say. It's too easy to fool her. Ji Hong sneered. I don't regret it at all. I just didn't expect you to be so sad. What's so good about her? Ji Hong questioned Zheng Xian like a jealous woman. She's just so stupid and annoying. Do you know how happy I was when I found out that she was dead? But I had to suppress the ecstasy in my heart to comfort you. The more Ji Hong spoke, the more she went overboard. Her vicious face was unbearable to look at. It was too ugly. Zheng Xian was silent for a moment. It's not you. Ji Hong smiled. Should I thank you for trusting me, or should I say that you're stupid and underestimate a woman's jealousy? Come and avenge Kong Bebe. Even if you don't, come and drag me down with you. Ji Hong's face was full of provocation. If I didn't say it, you probably wouldn't even know who killed Kong Bebe. You're so stupid. Oh, my stupid friend. Zheng Xian understood that Ji Hong was trying to provoke him and make him go over. If that was really the case, she didn't say it in the past because she wanted to keep it a secret. Zheng Xian looked at Ji Hong. Are you serious? Of course I'm serious. But I didn't expect that you'd rather die. You'd rather die with Kong Bebe than live. Ji Hong gritted her teeth. If I had known, I would have let that woman live. I would have let you see her true colors. The true colors of a selfish woman. The living couldn't win against the dead. Because the dead were constantly beautified in the hearts of people with intentions, their shortcomings were almost forgotten. But the living kept coming into contact with the dead, and those shortcomings were constantly magnified. Zheng Xian frowned. I'll ask you one last time. Was it you? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.